fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Good evening and welcome back to SimSpeed TV here on a Thursday night. It means we're back for the next round of season number 3 of the simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series here tonight. My name is Daniel Yeaman. Joining me in the commentary box will be David Haynes and Jay Kennedy up in production once again this evening. As David, we head to one of the classic homes of American endurance racing. It's Watkins Glen International tonight. And while this track's been getting plenty of use across leagues and official racing thanks to the updated scans here, but nevertheless should be a good night of action ahead of us here in the GT3 category that is AusPASS.
Yeah, beautiful track, very fast, bumpy and challenging in some places. That's not it. But what you see in the background there though, the bus stop, the inner loop, whatever you want to call it, very fast, very committed, thrills and spills through there because you have such a monstrously fast run from turn 1 all the way up the hill through those S's, and we will be running the full sports car boot layout tonight as well.
Yep, so that will give us a little bit of a break in that straight line speed, but that is very typical of endurance racing here in the real life currently. So indeed, that is the track map on screen for you now. So just over, just over 5.5 kilometers in length around here, 11 corners. And yeah, from turn 1 all the way up to turn 5, the inner loop, outer loop chicane pairing. That's going to be indeed probably our prime overtaking spot tonight, as always, David. But then, yeah, down through the chute, into the boot. Plenty of opportunities there to run too wide, but quite a decent direct length of the track, especially if you can get a run, I'd say all the way from back from turn 5. You're unlikely to get 2 cars to properly commit through that inner loop chicane, but I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, from turn 5 all the way around through the boot, I would expect to see 2 wide if people are looking to be racy. Well, having a look now at where the championship standings are at after round number 4 last week at Sonoma. And Matt Andrews continues to lead the field here. Now a 100-point gap out in front. He's been the, generally speaking, the favourite when it comes to pace around here, David, in AusPASS. But we'll see how things go for him tonight. Brady Buchanan still in second place, only 30 points ahead though of Chad Lewis, and then look at that, just 2 points to Jason Musket in 4th. So second through 4th is certainly up for grabs at this stage, but we'll have to come back to that at later tonight because the cars are on the grid and we've got a short parade lap here for pass 2 at Watkins Glen.
So looking at that grid then for this 40-minute enduro, Simon Cox and Matt Andrews for the front row, and remember they are quite strict in this championship about that 2x2 start. We're not going to see anyone jump in that start, or if they do, they will be penalised. It's going to be a proper 2-wide sports car start for that front row, and then Jason Musket, Owen Coleman, Brady Buchanan and Mark Fosters for our front 3 rows are going to be the ones to watch as they stream down in towards turn 1.
Yeah, and then looking over the page, Chester Lamb out of P7 with John Nicoleff alongside him in P8. Jamie Blackman out of 9th place with Adam Jepson new to the series tonight in 10th position. And Matt Tesoriero in 11th, and Anthony Connors running out our top 12 here.
Through the rest of that field then with Matt Hartigan, Ben Pollock, Aaron Maguire, Troy Mortensen, Hilton Booth, Simon Dwyer for the top 18. What have we got? 26, 27 cars. There's Reece Ashmore, Jesse White, Carrick, Greg Holmes, Peter Sharp, Greg Sholton, the last car with a qualifying time. And then I feel like James Scott is not meant to be in this division. And there might be a few others not taking the start for this one as well.
Yep, that is correct. Got a couple of drivers who made a slight mistake when it comes to selecting the right server, it would seem, tonight, but we'll have to worry about that another time, and we'll see most of those guys out later tonight in the Pro-Am division coming up straight after this. Well, we now focus as the pace car rolls on down through the final corner, the leaders giving it a bit of space here tonight as we get ready to get this one underway here. As we said, David, they have to wait till they get to the start-finish line, so a bit of patience for everyone here and keep the side-by-side formation all the way up until the green signal from iRacing. So in the hands of Barney the flagman, and there's that green flag as we get the race underway here. Round number 5 of Oz Pro-Am Sim Series is underway, and Pass 2 is already 3 wide down the front straight for 3rd place here. Get the back out of it though, it's the BMW of Brady Buchanan having to slot back into 5th place. But through turn 1 we go, a little bit of 2-3 wide action, and someone there, Ben Pollock in that lime green BMW has had to go out to the outside of the circuit, but he gets back on track cleanly, so good start from the past 2 fields so far. Tesserero in the Porsche is a little bit loose, but just offline there through the hill. So you see they're 2 wide. But good to see everyone is through for the start of this race. Bit of action up and down the field though.
Great launch from Buchanan there, went a little unrewarded because he was sensibly a little tentative to go down the inside 3 wide in towards turn number 1. He remains in 5th, whereas where he started the inside of the 3rd row, and your top 2 starting to get away a little bit with Simon Cox and Matt Andrews.
They are, and they have been some of the front runners in this series. Jason Musket's been doing a good job championship standings wise, as we just sort of mentioned there, currently running in 4th place for the championship at the moment, and now 3rd on track. But he's got Owen Coleman looking to pressure from behind, and yeah, Brady Buchanan 2nd place in the championship in that number 16 BMW is still in there for a fight most certainly. But Simon Cox, yep, sort of made his mark, well, was making a mark last week at Sonoma. Unfortunately, came undone for him in the past 2 races, the past 2 race singular, pardon me, last week. So not quite the way he wanted his night to go, I'm sure, but clearly keeping Matt Andrews at bay for now. So if he can convert tonight here in this endurance format, he will hopefully see him come up with standings in the next couple of weeks as the rounds continue on here. Although around 5 of the season, we are already halfway through the season, so not long left in all of this here, David.
Your big lap 1 mover so far was John Nicolay, as we've just logged that first lap. He's come from 8th on the grid up into 6th and maybe looking for a couple more. It was pretty even Stevens all through our top 10. We always get a little bit of shuffling deeper down the field potentially. But it was Nicolay who was the big mover, and I think he's got a good run up through those S's as well. It is a big slipstream towards that chicane, that bus stop, that inner loop.
Yeah, you see here closing on the back end of Buchanan, but he's not quite there this time by. So staying in the train, he'll have to do to see there all over the curbs for the opening half of the inner loop, but maybe a little bit compromised through that first part of the exit, and definitely pushing that Ferrari hard here through the carousel of the outer loop. And yeah, it's one of the things I guess I personally find the Ferrari a bit understeery for my liking, at least to get it to drive quickly. I haven't quite figured it out compared to perhaps some of the other GT3 cars that we will see out here tonight, but nevertheless, clearly is a comfortable car, and it's well liked by this field here. Just looking through the packing in, 2 in the top 5, plus the 11th and 6th, and then Jamie Blackman back in 9th place. So again, it's the most popular car inside the top 10 currently in this series, and then there's a whole bunch of guys currently fighting 16th through 20th, all Ferraris, and then 22nd of Peter Sharp, 24th, pardon me, of Ray Harrison, also in Ferrari. So it is the car to pick, it would seem, tonight. As you can see there, the 36 of Ray Harrison, fortunately, is a little while back from the drivers around him, but he's got clean air to work with, though, for the time being.
If you need an idea, on that lap, Jason Musket was purple in the 1st sector, Brady Buchanan purple in the 2nd sector, Matt Andrews purple in the 3rd sector, and your leader Simon Cox in the 4th sector. It is very equal, and it's all about these minuscule differences between the cars, some faster in different parts around the track. But from that, no one car or one driver is dominating, and that's awesome to see.
Yeah, looking at it by sector breakdown, it is impressive, but Simon Cox at the front of the field, and that Mercedes has got it working the best for him at the moment as an overall lap time. 143.0, fastest lap of the race at this stage to boot, but only a 10th faster than P2 in a BMW. So yeah, indeed, balance of performance in general, but also the series balance of performance has done a good job as we continue to, well, we're riding on board there with Jamie Blackman, one of our Ferraris in the top 10 there, and looking to press at the number 500 of Mark Foster and the number 80 of Chester Lamb again. So one of the things we chatted about last week, David, at Sonoma, is that this series does have a rolling balance of performance based on the results from the previous round. And you can see here changes since last week. The Lamborghini has taken another power hit, and I reckon that should be 97% power, not 87%, because heavens to Betsy, that Lamborghini would be a bit of a dead fish if it was down that much, unfortunately. So
didn't know they were making a GT4 version.
Apologies there from Director Jay Kennedy. I think he's going to maybe see about, which you probably can't correct that, but we'll leave that be, and we'll just give him a slap on the wrist for it later. But unfortunately, trouble out on track for two of our drivers. One of them being Jesse White-Carrigan, the other one being Ray Harrison. So one Audi, one Ferrari, both entangled. But it looks like, oh no, and Adam Jepson too in the 525 Porsche goes around. So just like that, we've been saying things are looking like are getting off to a good start. And that's now three cars, three different makes of car as well, for good measure, David. All going around in single car incidents by the looks of things, as they are quite separated on track from what I can tell. VRS Replay is going to tell us the story here of Adam Jepson first.
Penultimate corner and the rear gets away from him. He nearly catches it. Does he maybe get another tap or two from behind? Now, I've been in many an incident there in the past when it was a grass runoff before the paved runoff there in the penultimate corner. There it was so easy to catch a tiny bit of the grass and go for a spin, but that Porsche has just been a little unstable all the way through the mid-corner.
Yeah, unfortunately, good old pendulum there in the mid-corner on exit. And try to catch it once, try to catch it twice, but not quite able to make it stick. Meanwhile, biting over position number 7, Mark Foster in position 8. Chester Lamb here is trying to fend off Jamie Blackman. And they've been dropped by Mark Foster as a result of the fighting here. And Blackman not able to get the drive off of the corner around the outside of the toe of the boot. Lamb able to get that breakaway and breather here at this stage of the lap. And bringing Ben Pollock a little bit into the picture as well there. So was 7, 8, 9. It's now looking like it might start becoming 8, 9, and 10 here, David, as we look back to our trio of Porsches. Matt Hardigan, Matt Tesoriero, and Aaron Maguire here. All three lined up in a row here. And, well, indeed, all three Porsches coming out of the same team stable there. So these guys sort of comfortable working together at this stage of the race. And we'll see how they go here in terms of pace over
My
the
money's on
run.
the red rims.
Red rims make you faster, eh?
Absolutely.
I mean, it is red. It does help with speed. Although, points to that the yellow rims there, which belong to the 25 of Tesoriero, blending in with the paint job a little bit better, because the red is a aggressive standout, whereas the rims there on that 25 have been matched rather closely to the yellow of the actual paint. Spec Matt might be just messing with me a little bit there, and it's a little bit
tough
off.
to do though, isn't it? Because for the wheel painting, you only get to choose, flat or metallic. You don't have quite the same control over it as you do for the rest of the paint. You kind of get the chrome that you sold.
Indeed, yes, you are limited in terms of what you get out of that car. Well, back to the front of the... Oh, no, we were just talking about the trio of Porsches, and Tesoriero in the 25 has found himself
Yellow
a turtle.
rims up.
Yeah, rims sunny side up is not what the driver ordered today, but that's what he's ended up with as a result anyways. We're just going to switch back to the front of the field here because Simon Cox lost 3/10 on the last lap to Matt Andrews in second place, and the gap is now just on 3/10 between these two cars, and they're bringing Jason Musket with him as well, and Owen Coleman for good measure. So we've got 4 drivers here hustling for the race lead. Andrews is looking very racy now, so maybe that BMW just taking a little bit longer to switch on. He looks for the inside, the final call, but no, that's a slow run in. He's going for the pit lane early here as he brings it down onto the lane. So 9 minutes into the race and our first pit stop on schedule, and 2 BMWs for good measure bring it down to the pit lane. So maybe a little bit thirstier than the other cars out on track, but this week's pit strategy, 28% fuel tank limit. So pit stops on the left of screen, but we have a look at the replay on the right of screen, David. Where has it gone wrong for Tesario?
I would say the curbs. There's 4 of them. They're very bouncy. He's carried a lot of speed in, and then the second part he's lost it, and that's a big hit. Chef's flip.
Thought about it, and it said not quite chef.
Yeah, so he's given it a lot of steering angle across the curb at the second apex. It's sort of skidded on and then gripped up.
Yes, right. Yeah, I was going to say it didn't catch a lot of that curb through the third phase of the chicane complex. But if you're gonna, the car gets loose like that and goes for a big old slide, and then it recovers, that definitely would do a bit for you there. So BMW's out of the pit lane. They were joined by the number 12 of Jamie Blackman and the 83 of Troy Mortensen. So those guys now, well, at least second and 2 BMWs, have all got a bit of clean air at the moment, those 2 guys. More drivers into the pits include Simon Dwyer, but the 256 Ferrari's been in there for 46 seconds, so lengthy stop for him. And Ray Harrison has just come into the pits as well. Well, that will be for his second time in the race, possibly. Actually, no, pardon me. He had a spin earlier on, but he's been able to save it and then come in now for his first stop.
I thought Matt Andrews was very ginger on this pit entry, and some of those behind him were a bit quicker, and that's being shown now. He lost about half a second on that pit entry on the sector times compared to those who came in immediately behind him, and now you see everyone else have to trickle into pit lane. So for an undercut, it might not have been how you would have wanted to done it.
We'll have to see here. So fuel tank restriction tonight for this Enduro round for both servers is 28%. So they are quite fuel limited, which will force the strategy hand quite significantly. And on top of that, if it's anything like previous rounds, they won't have been given the full 28% fuel to start off with. As we see here, Simon Cox issuing the pits, and one of the Porsches is out early, but unfortunately that is a lap down car. So Andrews, the undercut has worked. Yes, it has worked. He's going to get out marginally ahead of Simon Cox. So change of the positions here. The question is, can that Mercedes switch back on and close the gap before that BMW fires up and starts pulling away?
And critically, by going a lap longer, the cars behind have managed to put more fuel in at that stop. So while Matt Andrews is about a second ahead of Simon Cox, Cox is carrying about 2 seconds more fuel at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah, that will make a difference at the next stop, you would think, if Cox can keep the gap where it is right now. You see here,
Hilton Booth at the top of the S's, big incident, the kind of one that you see happen from time to time, and it's bit this time.
Oh, yeah, that's a solid tank slapper, and it's reversed into the inside fence. Ooh, careful with the rejoin there, fellas. You're going to have to park that there for a sec. He's got a bit of time now. Again, drivers coming out of the pit lane at semi-regular intervals, so the 488 Ferrari is going to have to sit there and endure a world of hurt. We have a look here at the virtual racing score replay, and yeah, offline in the marbles. That's not the roll. No! Never mind that. I was thinking
call
the
an
marbles
ambulance,
might have
but not for me situation there. It was the wrong Ferrari in the marbles that we were looking at.
Oh, yeah, that car is taking an absolute beating. I need to try and see if we can figure it out. Troy Mortensen in the number 83 Ferrari, I think. Yes, that was the other car involved there, the number 19 on the windscreen. And unfortunately, the DSL welding services plus the colour scheme, that gives it away. So, impressively, that car there, the 83 Ferrari, has escaped with minor injuries, whereas it's the other victim of the whole disaster here, the 488 of Hilton Booth. That thing is doing the crab on its way back to the pit lane here, and he's got a lot of... No, he's going to limp it around. Interesting here, didn't stop in his pit box very long last time, possibly a glitch from my timing system, because he was in the lane for about the same length as everyone else, but it's not recording stationary top stop for him, so we'll worry about that another time, because back at the front of the field, that Mercedes is looking good here at the initial phase. Simon Cox closing the gap from 9/10 to 6/10, and again delivering on the promise that we hope to see. Good fight up the front of the field. Meanwhile here, Jason Musket. Now this is interesting. Musket, oh dear me, yep, 53 seconds stationary in the box. iRacing black flag for speeding on the pit entry, and naughty for the 46 drops himself out of the top 4, and that's a real disappointment for him, I'm sure. But we'll see if he can rebound here and pick up some spots. Still 26 minutes on the clock, so not even halfway yet. He's got a chance to get back into this one, David, but has certainly given himself a bit of a back foot position there.
Yeah, it's a tough lesson to learn. I mean, I talk about you can very easily gain a lot of time aggressively attacking the pit entry more than you can any other corner, any other lap of the track, but there is a big penalty to pay sometimes if you overdo it. Now, I don't think you see many unsafe pit entries here. That yellow line on pit entry seems to be very advisory for the stewards at Watkins Glen, but definitely speeding on the pit lane can be a problem, and it's very harshly enforced.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, mid-pack, troubles for the 918 of Reece Ashmore. He's already back in the pit lane after a spin down at the toe of the boot. And yeah, mechanical black flag. He opts not to drive that car back to the pits. See, he was just behind Jason Musket after they come out through the pit cycle. Oh, and yeah, the rear end. Let's go, but that's just a bit too quick into the corner, it would seem. And car says no more for me. So unfortunately, that's another driver who's going to be in a bit of pain here while he waits for that toe, David. Meanwhile, Hawks closed the gap. Well, it's holding at 6, 7 tenths. So, pardon me, actually, I need to rephrase. The gap is about where it is. So, in the slipstream, but does Andrews now have the pace through the twistier sections to get away here? That will be the question on our lips, I think, for the next couple of laps. As these guys will run the tank out here. Question is, we'll have to see how much longer they can go versus their starting fuel here today.
Reminds me a little bit of supercars racing, actually, with the races they have with a minimum required fuel drop or something, wherein the amount of fuel you might have in the car at some stage in the middle of the race is more than what you might start with. So that kind of makes the stint length a little interesting. The traffic makes things a little interesting for Simon Cox. I still reckon I want to be with a 64 at this point. I think he's carrying a bit more fuel that'll go to help him with the second stop, because it's definitely going to be a 2-stop race. We had our questions about it in the Pro Division a week ago, but I think this is a much more fuel-hungry circuit.
Oh, it should be indeed. With that, it's basically a power sector 1, and then you get a little bit back in sectors 2 and 3, but it's a lot of stop-start action here.
You're accelerating uphill out of a bunch of the corners too, and I feel like that makes a huge difference compared to Sonoma, where we were a week ago. Much shorter straights, more flowing, and there's easier to carry momentum as well. Think about downhill out of their carousel.
Indeed, and also things like able to roll uphill into braking zones if you're willing to go or work that to your advantage, and let the hill actually bleed the speed off so you can roll it in before you hit the brakes. We saw that's a good effect from the number 1 McLaren, Jeff Connell, last week. So we'll have to wait and see what he's got for us this week when we get to those guys later on. So have a look here at the 86 of Ben Pollock. Our biggest mover up the field so far tonight. 6 places gained and inside the top 10 now. So Pollock looking good here. A 14-second pit stop for the first one of his. So he's also in a good position fuel-wise, I would expect, by those numbers.
You remember we saw quite a few of these BMW M4 GT3 stopping after 5 laps. Think race leader Matt Andrews, think Brady Buchanan. And Pollock here went 1 lap longer than them. So I think for a BMW, that's a good sign.
Indeed. The cars should be all relatively well balanced on fuel burn, given they all are capped at 28%. So for cars like the Mercedes, the Audi, the Porsche, and that BMW in Pass 2 here tonight, that's a 29.1 litre fuel tank available to them. The Ferraris, unfortunately, I don't have an exact number on because I've not yet driven these Ferraris since the Season 2 update, where they changed the fuel tank size, and they did reduce the fuel burn to accommodate the reduced tank size while still getting you an hour of driving or thereabouts out of these things. So unfortunately, the old Ferrari was 110 versus 120, which is what that majority of GT3 cars were at. But, oh no, I just heard Owen Coleman on the radio in-game, and no wonder why. The 27 Ferrari is destroyed, and now a mechanical black flag for good measure. You've been running up in the top 3. You have to look at here. Oh, no, not lap traffic. That's going to be the most painful thing for the 27 in that case. And, oh, dear, wibbly-wobbly all over the track, David. And, oh, that's the lightest of contact, the harshest of penalties as a result. The arm code has no friends and takes all prisoners.
Oh, I'd be a little salty. Maybe that's more me, but yeah, that is quite severe damage from hitting the arm code there.
Yeah, well, mechanical
It's going to be an
black flag.
unhappy Silver Fern and Kiwi on the side of the car.
Yeah, it will indeed. We'll have to see. He can get that car back in and take a fast repair, but with 20 minutes still on the clock, I would expect he'll have to come in and take a unexpected third stop for fuel, given the tight restrictions here tonight. You see here, he's trying to muscle that thing back to pit lane pretty quickly and lose as little time as possible, but yep, has to try and make sure he gets it across to the inside.
I found a JRT page that'll tell me the fuel tank size.
Oh, beautiful. That's true. The Ferrari, yes, JRT does have that number. So please indulge us. What is the new fuel tank size for the Ferrari?
Oh, Coleman, 30.8, I think. Yeah, with this restriction.
Okay, interesting. That's very interesting because the Ferrari has been the car that used to have little fuel. Meanwhile, speaking of Ferraris, oh dear, the 14 Anthony Connors understeer straight to your nearest tyre bundle at the top of the boot. And thankfully, he's continuing, but the 14 Ferrari is a little worse for it. And oh no, I've just noticed on my screen, talk about bad to worse, the 27 Ferrari of Owen Coleman has picked up an iRacing penalty. That has to be speeding in the pit lane, just trying to get that thing back in, and yeah, he's a little bit quick on pit entry by, oh dear, 84 the line, 64k limit, and he doesn't slow it down to get that thing back underneath it. So talk about going from bad to worse, and well, Coleman is painting that picture for us right now. Meanwhile, back on track. Another little wing shot here on board the 421 of Aaron Maguire, looking ahead to his teammate, Matt Hardigan there in the 999 Porsche. Well, they're down a man after we lost Matt Tesoriero earlier on. Tesoriero's back out on track, but a minute 33 off of these guys here on track puts him a lap down on the field. In fact, not far off being a lap down on his teammates. Meanwhile, just behind, not too far behind the Porsches, Jason Musket and Chester Lamb duking it out over position 13 of 14. Heard Jason was on the radio a little bit earlier about something. Possibly presume that was about lap traffic. There seems to be a bit of frustration here tonight with about the way things are panning out at this stage, but without being able to see that from my own eyes.
And more than just the traffic, you remember Musket had that speeding in pit lane penalty that's put him further down racing with some drivers he didn't think he was going to be racing with when he qualified third.
Oh, absolutely. That does make things a little bit difficult for you because, well, you just want to, you feel like you're really out of place, and then you've got to try and work through not only people that are trying to defend you for position, but they're also, the traffic here tonight has been a factor and will continue to be a factor, so we'll have to keep our eyes on it. Keeping our eyes on it. Gap at the front still around that 6/7 margin. It was down to half a second, David, but BMW's got good drive out of the lower speed corners, it would seem. So the Mercedes really having to get its speed through the higher speed sections of the track and then hope it's enough drive out of the lower speed stuff to stay in draft range here. The gap's out towards 9/10 of a second. So yeah, starting to see here just the characteristics of the cars and how they do things. Meanwhile, Andrews, he's down onto the lane again. So BMW in at the end of lap 13. So there's your idea of range for these guys. 16 minutes on the clock. Or will be just over.
That's a bit rough because he's gone 5 laps in the first stint. He's just done 7. There's 10 more to get home from here. So is this quite early on the call for Andrews? Oh, that was a bit of a conflagration at pit entry there.
Oh, yep. A little bit of fun and games there as the number 12 of Jamie Blackman comes down onto the lane. He's followed in by the 303 of Greg Sholton there, so lap traffic joining him in the lane. Now, this
and Matt Hardigan, Team Red Rims.
All right, there we go. So have a look at it here once again in replay. So that's Ben Pollock in behind, who's at racing speed. And yeah, just has to get, it's very close to the rear end of Blackman's Ferrari, but no dramas that time round as it would turn out. So there you go. Andrew's out of the lane. He's back to 8th place on track and 12.5 seconds in the box again. So gonna have about what? So he's gonna have another 7 or 8 laps in that tank. 15.5 minutes to go at 1 minute 45s or thereabouts. 44s for the front runners. Gonna be close, David. I think he might just have it. I would think he wouldn't be coming in if he didn't think he could make it from here. Is he?
Yeah, I mean, he basically
got the wire there.
You know, a quarter of a normal fuel tank that will get you an hour, and we've got a quarter of an hour left in this one. So I think if he's just gone and brimmed the restricted fuel tank at that point, should probably be fine.
Indeed, you can see here fuel savings from Simon Cox. Maybe, well, definitely able to extract a bit. Oh no, more trouble for the 46 of Jason Musket. Oh dear. Was making, well, was up into 11th place at least there. And it's come undone once again. Meanwhile, another pair of BMWs onto pit lane. Brady Buchanan and Mark Foster. And, oh no, more trouble for drivers getting speeding penalties on pit lane. The 16 has gone and done the naughty. So that's his race going to be giving a bit of a kick up the backside there. So more cars falling afoul of the pit entry limit. Meanwhile, Musket just in a little bit too fast, and the rear end says it's not going to play. And just a lamp, wiggle it around. So see here just how quick was Buchanan on the pit entry. You wonder? The answer is, oh dear, 78k is just over the line on entry with a 64k limit. Yeah, it takes a bit to recover from that. So he's still in the pit lane as these guys come on past. Jason Musket now has Greg Holmes for company. 2 Ferraris now fighting over 11th on track as Buchanan is still stationary in the box and waiting it out. He's just about to get going. 53 seconds in the end for him. So yeah, down to 14th place, and definitely a lot of pain for him as well tonight. So yeah, very good point that you were saying there earlier. 28% fuel tank, and around that 16-minute marker, you've just got enough. You should be able to make it home from there. But our race leader, Simon Cox, has brought it down with 13 minutes on the clock, so we should expect him to not even need to fully fill the tank here.
That's why I want to see this pit stop time from Simon Cox to see, is it going to be much shorter than those he's been battling?
2 laps. Yeah, 2 laps longer this time round versus Andrews. So the time to beat, 12.8 seconds in the box. Cox has parked it right on the front edge, so that should hopefully give him the best possible departure here. Time ticking up, 12.8 seconds as well. So he didn't actually save all that much time stationary, but he's away, and he's going to get back that race lead. So the lead changes hands once again on the pit lane rather than out on track. And he comes out with a pretty healthy 1.5 second gap. So Andrew's going to have to push hard to get into the draft range here as Cox gets back up to speed.
I think a little bit of that evaporates as they race up through the S's, and the driver who's come from turn 1 is going to have just a little bit more momentum the whole way down that long straight. And the driver who's come from pit lane, but that is your gap, first to second, both of them having cleared their pit stops. Both of them, of course, going fuel only in this one. I think I did see Chester Lamb maybe change 2 tyres at the first stop, but that is an uncommon and probably not advised strat.
Yeah, 40 minutes here in past 2 and 60 minutes coming up for the Pro-Am. So would expect indeed that these guys should be perfectly fine on a single set of tyres, start to finish, and doubly so because of the lower fuel loads, meaning that you're not increasing the weight and loading it up and down a huge amount. Meanwhile, looking at John Nikolev, currently running in P4 and 2 times down the lane. So this is the fight for P3. Mark Foster directly ahead in the 500 BMW. And, well, once you clear these two guys, it's 19 seconds up the road to the front 2 cars. that says a lot about these guys. Consistency, winning them positions here on track above it or wells. But yeah, definitely not on the pace of the front two, but we'll definitely got here. Two-way fight for third, two-way fight for the lead. And meanwhile, the radio is alight with plenty of chatter at the moment. And
Brady Buchanan's just had...
Yep, big one coming down the chute.
No, my red rims.
Oh dear, make that another bit. Porsche in trouble. Matt Hardigan this time in the 999, and Buchanan is back to the pit lane with, well, we just saw there, no front end. So 10 minutes to go here in pass 2, and it's going off once again, unfortunately. Greg Holmes has now got the mechanical black flag, and his Ferrari is crabbing like mad out of the boot. Meanwhile, Virtuoso score replay here, David. And
Scholten is there.
Oh no. Oh no. The 303 of Greg Scholten's come back across into the line, and it's taken taking the rear of Buchanan's car. Oh dear. And then was it just those? Okay, so just Buchanan, I think. So that's how that ended up. And then Hardigan had a small spin of his own coming down into the chute. So yes, indeed. Looks like Hardigan now on the 999. Yeah, all by himself. And actually, look at that. That Porsche absolutely unloads in the mid to high speed load. Oh, very close to getting the number 13 of Greg Holmes. In fact, Holmes' car already damaged, but that was actually contact there. And that's what did in the number 13 Ferrari. So I thought he might have got away with it, but then again, mechanical black flag, and that 13 Ferrari is still crabbing its way into its pit box. And, well, the slight of the touches and a world of hurt is the end result. As we've come back to live pitches, and again, the fight for third is still on, but Foster looks to have it covered for now. Likewise, Simon Cox still got the gap over a second to Matt Andrews in second.
Yeah, so Ben Pollock, lots of positions gained. Biggest mover inside of the top 10, having come from 14th into 5th. I think that that looks like not just a consistent drive, but I think the strategy's been pretty well optimized. Remember, we were hailing this as one of the few BMWs to have gone longer in the opening stint. Gone pretty good in that middle stint and just minimized the pit lane time. We haven't seen any crazy moves from Ben Pollock, have we? But he's just snuck his way forward as this race has gone on. It's definitely a race format that rewards the drivers who maximize the little things around the pit stop and the fuel consumption and the strategy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You got that car out to the same length as Simon Cox did in the second stint. So very much a case of maybe not going completely hammer to the floor.
And that second overcut looked really good for Simon Cox. I imagine Ben Pollock has done pretty similar to some of those around him, like Blackman and Anthony Connors.
Well, indeed. Nicolev directly ahead of Pollock. Also got his Ferrari out to 15 laps before the second stop. Jamie Blackman behind in another Ferrari, mind you, though, only got to lap 13 before pitting for fuel. So this here is the number 12 of Jamie Blackman, who's currently in behind the 86 of Ben Pollock. And yeah, so that overcut, again, just running that fuel as long as you can, maybe sacrificing a bit of raw pace early on to get the fuel savings that get you comfortably that extra lap here really has paid off for most of the cars at the front of the field. And, well, the only driver who seems to have made a bit of a half and half strategy work was the number 500 of Mark Foster, who's actually just starting to drop John Nicolev for third place. So looking like he's got the legs on that BMW to keep himself on the podium relatively comfortably. Meanwhile, less than 7 minutes on the clock. These two still at it, and the gap is just coming inside of a second now. But again, ebbing and flowing around this course. There's a lot in it, and well, not a lot in it. Actually, is probably the best way to put it. So the question is, has Andrews got that little bit more in it through the higher speed stuff in the first sector, just to get himself that bit of advantage down the straights?
Yeah, it will be interesting for the lead, no doubt. Hands up, like two of the quickest drivers in the split as well. There's only a very small handful of drivers that have logged laps with the fastest lap or a personal best in the 143s. It's these two. It's Brady Buchanan and Jason Musket, and both of them have had their races a little deeper in the field unwind, and they're not even in the top 10. So it's very very good and controlled speed from these two, but also have kept their noses out of trouble when there has been plenty around, and still will be a bit more as you see them working their way through yet more traffic. This is Jesse White-Carrig.
Oh boy, yep, rough moment there for the 777 Audi. Actually involved in an incident of his own there at the end of the last lap. Comes out of the boot through the penultimate corner, and the rear end has let go on that 777 Audi. So that's where it happened. And then down at turn 1, I believe he's just opting to get well out of the way of the race leaders there more than anything else. So, besides that, yeah, discretion is the better part of valor, and to extract himself from the situation. Although the rejoin didn't help out a couple of guys around in there. The 488 at Hilton Booth looking to try and recover after his disaster. So here it is, David, on that Virtual Racing scoreboard. Just watch it. The rear end is just going to go completely here under load.
Yeah, not dissimilar to what some of the Porsches have done. Just a little boop on the tyres. You're better off hitting the tyres in the Armco. The track charges you a lot less for that.
Yes, and funnily enough, you get away with a little bit more tyre bundle wax than Armco hits. Must be something about the fact that tyres are spongy and rubbery and designed to absorb impact hits. Anyways, yeah, so back to live pitches though, and yeah, 4 minutes on the clock, and our front two still mostly unchanged for the time being. Gap is still holding around 1.2 seconds, so Simon Cox has found a little bit of speed here through the back half of the circuit, and it's just keeping Andrews at bay that he can't get the draft that'll pull him up to close the gap here through this opening sector. In fact, the gap up to 1.4 on the exit of turn 1. Cox is absolutely either maybe quite possibly run a little wide there, maybe, but at the same time, maybe not. So again, it's going to have to be a massive pull in here from Andrews. And we saw him catch a couple of tenths, but he was always on the cusp of draft. Now he's dropping back even further. The gap's out to 1 point. As Andrews short filled this car, and despite what we thought, is he actually going to have to lift and coast it here?
Well, he made that second stop one of the very first drivers to do so. So I wonder if he maybe has just started to run himself into a bit of problems there. Owen Coleman's on the lane for a third time as well.
Yeah, Coleman did have to come in early due to instant damage. Early enough to the point where I suspected he would have to come down the lane once again. And that's quite painful to be only 3 minutes short. Gonna do you win. Unfortunately, the reason I said is Andrew's fuel saving is he lost about 3/10 through the inner loop chicane, but no sign of a lift from the number 2 BMW last time around. And no sign of a lift here again. So, indeed, he has got the fuel to make it to the end, but Simon Cox has decided to keep the boot in it here. Lapping is still in the 143s, and Andrews, well, he's just dropped into the 144s out of nowhere.
Yeah, the best for last for your race leader pulling away, and had Andrews just not able to match it on that lap. They are going to have 2 more to go, and it wasn't particularly close. I think all sensible predictions of race distance would have said the number of laps that we're going to get.
Yeah,
rims.
Yeah, the 999 and Matt Hardigan, last Porsche standing out of that team outfit. Unfortunately, he's seen his actually, no, pardon me, sorry, no, Aaron Maguire is the last man technically standing out of that outfit. He's two cars up the road. Hardigan has had a moment of his own tonight. You can see here, in the hustle the back of Troy Mortensen. Mortensen's had an absolutely shocking run out of the toe of the boot there, and well, that's need no further introduction to the position. So back up into 11th spot for Hardigan. He's actually still up 2 spots from where he started tonight. So, despite having a spin of his own, is still...
Oh, nearly had another one.
Oh, yeah, well... Almost undid the work there.
You know who else has red rims?
No, do tell.
Lightning McQueen, Ka-chow.
Oh, thank you. Right, okay, so... Disney's Cars making its appearance once again. So, back at the front of the field, the clock ticks down to 40 seconds, and Simon Cox takes the white flag from Barney, and yeah, oh, there it is! Andrew's in the pit lane. He has not been able to make that car last. Oh, I thought he was going to make it. There was no sign of lift and coast, and oh, meanwhile...
Ferrari to Ferrari contact, climbing up through the S's. Troy Mortensen, big damage, and I think Owen Coleman might have some as well.
Yeah, that's Coleman there ahead of the race leader, going slow down the straightaway. No mechanical black flags, but a lot of back and forth chatter on the radio. Andrews has lost second place to Mark Foster. Look at the virtual racing replay, and yeah, look at that. Coleman hustling out of turn 1, and has gone too tight through turn 2, snaps on the grass, and then obliterates Mortensen into the Armco on the outside.
So, not a lack of awareness, no malice, but just losing control there a little too hard on the curb and sending his competitor into the shadow realm.
Look here, John Nicoleff, he's now got a chance at a podium again, but the tiniest bit of a hold-up, unfortunately, from the limping Mortensen. Might have just put paid to that ambition. So, I didn't think it would happen necessarily, but Andrews not able to get that BMW home by 1 lap. He wasn't fuel saving, so he clearly decided to abandon any hopes of stretching the tank to the end of the race. So, in the end, it was a 2-way fight at the front of the field, but Simon Cox plays the pit strategy to a T, and he takes the checkered flag here in pass 2. Redemption after last week's race at Sonoma for him, I would say. Gets his second round in pass 2 to a really good result there with the race win. Mark Foster is going to bring it home in the second place. He's just ahead of Matt Andrews still here, and well, he's got just enough to make it across the line here before Andrews catches him. Foster just the 1 lap longer than Andrews, and it's not a much, but it's just enough to get the job done here. So John Nicoleff brings it home for 4th, and Ben Pollock, he's going to round out the top 5 here, and indeed up 9 spots for him. But meanwhile, trouble in the top 10. Jamie Blackman,
He's being pushed,
limping it home with fuel.
which Chester Lamb and Aaron Maguire might not be quite so thrilled about.
Well, at this stage, we should get him. Oh, I was going to say Matt Hardigan might have a chance too, but Hardigan's found the exit.
No, Hardigan's off the lead lap, so there's only 2 cars behind that can pass for position. Here comes Chester Lamb around the outside. Aaron
And
Maguire is another 10 seconds away. I don't think that's getting to the finish line in a hurry, though.
yeah, Aaron Maguire. Oh, sorry, Hardigan.
Wait, it's going to be close. Not top 10. Here we come.
There goes Aaron Maguire across the line. And, well, just beaten, if I'm not mistaken, by Jamie Blackman. Yes, a second in it at the end of that one there. And, yeah, sorry, pardon me, Hardigan, the last car on the lead lap. And now out of fuel. So, got it across the line and then had a big old loop-de-loop. So, let's take a look through the race results here, David. Simon Cox ends up taking quite the comfortable race win ahead of Mark Foster, who's able to snatch second place out of the hands of Matt Andrews there. That number 2 BMW just didn't have the fuel mileage, it would seem, tonight to make the 2-stop strategy work. John Nicoleff was almost there, but not quite able to hang on to his place on track, and 4th place is the end result for him. And then back to Ben Pollock, a decent distance back, but 5th place is up 9 spots and a good result for him, ahead of Anthony Connors in 6th, Adam Jepson in 7th, Chester Lamb in 8th, Jamie Blackman in 9th, and then Aaron Maguire, the 10th car and last car to finish on the lead lap here. So, busy night for many of these guys already.
Matt Hartigan is going to get 11th, and whether his teammates are able to push him around or not will determine whether he gets counted as having finished on the lead lap potentially there. But we know Owen Coleman, Hilton Booth, Simon Dwyer, Jesse White-Carrick, Jason Musket, Troy Mortensen, Peter Sharp, Matt Tesoriero, far out, Tesoriero, and Greg Holmes. I just tried too hard. I tried too hard.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to put it. So, I can actually tell you, Matt Hartigan was on the lead lap and he's ran out of fuel because the race has gone 1 lap longer. So, speaking of the 999, here are our 3 Porsches trying to get the man home because otherwise he goes down a lap on the scoring card.
For those of you following along at home, 911 times 3 is 2,733. Now add in 488. Now that's 3,221 about to cross the finish line. Quick maths.
Quick maths brought to you by David Haynes, ladies and gents. Well, what we'll do is while we're watching the antics of the Porsches make their way across the line, we'll bring in our past 2 race winner real quick for a chat. Simon Cox, congratulations there on getting the win here tonight. And after a good fight there with Matt Andrews, able to out-strategize there, it would seem, and make it home on 2 stops versus 3 stops for that BMW behind you.
Yeah, it was a really good race, and I had a couple of spotters that were just re-clarifying our fuel strategy because I knew we sort of had to go for that extra 1 lap at the start, and it was just a case of try not to panic when I lost the lead and just sort of play out the rest of the race. But it was a really good race, and great broadcast that you guys put on. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, appreciate it indeed. Well, we saw you last week at Sonoma, also had great pace. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out the way I'm sure you would have hoped, but to rebound here at Watkins Glen is definitely a good sign for things to come. I guess, what are you looking forward to now with a race win now under your belt in terms of other results, perhaps looking to the rest of the season here?
So at the moment I'm just enjoying the past 2 because I've got one of the guys in my team, BMA, Daniel Hill, that we spot for and do the strategies, fuel strategies and race strategies for. But yeah, just getting back on to last week, yep, a USB dongle fell out of my computer, which made the computer, the wheel inoperative. So it took me a while to get it rebooted. But yeah, it was good to come back and have a bit of a bounce back win. And for the rest of the season, I'll try and do every week, and hopefully next season we'll move up into the Pro-Am class.
Oh, that is quite the unfortunate problem last week there indeed, but got good pace, and I reckon, yeah, with a chance to have a crack at the Pro-Am, looks like guys like yourself and Matt Andrews should be shoe-ins for that class indeed. Well, before we let you go, Simon, chance to say thanks to your team sponsors and other guys at the team you want to give a shout out to tonight?
Yes, I will. So the team is BMA, that's Barbecue Motorsports, because we all love barbecue, and BHE from Bass Hill Electrical, and Skid Lit Art. If you're after a good paint job on a helmet, he's the man.
All right there. Thank you very much, Simon. Look forward to seeing you at the rest of the rounds here for the Oz Pro-Am. Got halfway in and halfway to go.
Appreciate you guys.
So there we are, David. Race winner from past 2. We'll get a quick chat with him. It was great to see. We'll take a quick break here at SimSpeed TV, but stay with us because we'll be back in just a moment's time for the main Pro-Am game. 60-minute race coming your way in just a second here. Welcome back to SimSpeed TV, and back here now for the simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series. 5th round of season number 6 brings us here, the Watkins Glen International Racecourse. And it's now time for the main Pro-Am game because, well, there's less than 2 minutes on the clock in quali. But here's a quick look at the standings in the Pro Division after round number 4. Jeff Connell gets himself back into the championship lead after a nightmare round at Bathurst, but a dominant round at Sonoma last week. And unfortunately, well, I say not unfortunately about him, it's just a 1 point gap though for him at the front of that field. And then you can see here, top 4 all very much in contention. So eyes on Connell, Jack Witters, Ross Rizzo, and Dennis Gaderick for positions in the championship after tonight. And then looking over in the AM division, we see Aaron Olver still holds about 150 point lead there to Nick Woods. So a little more comfortable at the very front of the AM division versus the pros, but still, fight is going to be on there for 2nd and 3rd in that championship. And then when it comes to the teams here in Oz Pro-Am, teams championship counts across both Pro-Am and past 2 divisions combined, depending on who you've got in the series, David. And it's Pulse Echuca Toyota Racing with Dennis Gaderick and John Merritt out in front, but only 50 points to the second place team in Metabus Motorsport behind them.
And when you think about how teams' points are calculated off more than one driver, the potential for a swing is greater in the team's championship than in any of the individual drivers' championship, because if 2 drivers from one team have a really good round, maybe even go 1-2, the total points that are scoreable in one event compared to your competition can add up very quickly. So that is even closer than it initially appears in that team's championship. All to play for, methinks.
Indeed. And given it's only just hit the halfway point of the season, once we get to the end of tonight's racing, David, it's still very much all on the cards to play. And the Drivers' Championship will be busy enough because there are drop rounds to calculate in as well. So we'll have to see about those in a little bit. But time to get to the grid results for the main Pro-Am game. We've actually got a full pace lap here for the Pro-Am division, unlike the shortened pace lap we saw in the past 2 category earlier. So we've got a bit of time to run through the grid for you tonight. James Scott, once again, that's now 3 weeks in a row. He takes pole position here in the 89 Porsche. But he's got Lachlan Capel alongside him, so it's an all Porsche front row. Capel has put in an absolutely blinding qualifying lap to get himself up into P2. Sharing row number 2 will be Joshua Fitt and Jack Witters. Again, one of our main championship antagonists there in the 898. Starting out of P4, championship leader Jeff Connell just behind him in P5 with Danny Davidson joining the series to start out of P number 6 tonight. 7th will be Ross Rizzo on the grid with Luke Turner in 8th. Dale Carpenter in 9th, and Daniel Cheney out of 10th place here. Pardon me, actually. Looks like we've got some interesting. I'm not seeing the same thing in iRacing as I'm seeing on our overlays. I'll just run through the areas. There we go. So Daniel Cheney in the 444 Porsche for Texans Fin. So he's actually up in 5th place tonight, and that bumps Jeff Connell back to 6th. Ross Rizzo is up to 7th place as we head back over the page once again. Now I've just updated you on the standings there, and Luke Turner alongside him in 8th place. And then it's Danny Davidson back in 9th with sharing row number 5 with Jack Boyd. First of our AM class is Dale Carpenter, and quite a bit ahead of his competition in that AM division. 11th place for him with Graham Smith starting out of 12th here, David.
Yeah, and the field runs deep here in the big boys split with the Pro-Am drivers, and it is a big grid that they are going to have. With row 7, it's Adam Funslow and John Merritt. We've got Timothy Oty and Sebastian Vandal sharing row 8. Nick Wood, good qualifying for him as an AM division driver up here on row 9 that he shares with Aaron Racanello. Then the next grouping, you've got Christopher Henn and Calix Poon. You've got Brandon Levin and Jordan Peter, Daniel Webster and Liam Caplice here on row 12. There's a lot of cars between himself as an AM category driver and the next ahead of him for class position.
Indeed, the top 3 in AM are incredibly spaced apart on the grid, pardon me, at least. So whether that makes a difference, we will have to see. Our final Pro Class driver, well, Elliot Osborne first, I should add, starting out 25th tonight overall. And it's our final Pro Class driver in the hands of Nathan Moore, 26th outright for him. And then it's all AM from there on back. Jai Potts starting out 27th with Sam Lehman alongside him for 28th. Derek Audie and Matthew Johnson out of 29th and 30th respectively. Then Timothy Harris and Richard Brookfield for 31st and 32nd. Glenn Boyd for 33rd. Hayden Jackson for 34th. Mosman Ross 35th with Wayne Losh in 36th. And then our last couple of cars on the grid, Damien Seeger, Daniel Hill, Angus Chappell and Nick Buxton rounding out the top 40. And our 21st and final row, Phil Audie and Matthew Scarr alongside him, both those drivers not setting a qualifying time. So it is a bumper grid, as you said, David. 42 cars, 22 in the Pro Division, 20 in the AM Division here tonight. 60 minutes on the clock. These guys are going to have to work a bit of fuel magic, I think, this week.
The fuel burn is in effect right now as they all do a full length formation lap as well. The moment their car set down on the grid, it started burning fuel. So even when we get to that green flag and the 60-minute clock starts, they will have lost a little bit of fuel too. So who right now is fuel saving on the formation lap? I want to know what Jeff Connell is doing.
One would think after being one of the few drivers to pull off the one-stop strategy.
He could do with a skid lid art.
Indeed, yes, that helmet, much like his car, very much keeping it plain and simple. But, well, maybe one day someone will slap a logo on that car. But I guess we'll have to ask Jeff about that at some point. Depends what he's asking. Maybe he's set the bar a bit high, perhaps, David. But Roy, I'll be curious to see how that McLaren goes, because historically it burns a little bit more fuel than everyone else around us tonight. I actually have been able to run the numbers on the Ferrari tank to be precise. So we knew that the Porsches, so the Porsche, BMW, Lamborghini, Audi, they're all running a tank tonight of 29 litres. 0.1 to be precise, and the Ferrari is currently locked to a fuel tank in this series of 28.3, so it is not a lot of difference, but it has a slightly lower fuel burn. We'll worry about that, though, in a second, because it's time for us to take the green flag here in the Oz Pro Am Sim Series. James Scott is going to take them across the line here, and we're underway for round number 5. 60 minutes starts here right now. Single file at the front of the field, David, but immediately look at them all fanning out 2, 3, 4 wide into turn 1. It is busy here at the front of the field. McLaren trying to go around the outside, and oh no, trouble at the mid-pack. The 509, Calix Poon, indeed. He is around and now very much last of the drivers to get away here. So spun around is not the way he wanted his race to start. Meanwhile, you can see here, double file of plenty through the middle of this pack as they make their way up towards the inner loop chicane for the first time. Drivers opting to try and lift. Oh, contact side by side between, I think that was John Merritt and Christopher Henn, but they've both gotten through just. So a little rub and bump, thankfully. Nothing coming too much of it. Meanwhile, Dale Carpenter still holds the AM class lead, but second, third, fourth, all lined up on track. It's Liam Caplice leading Matthew Johnson now and Nick Wood. You can see here these guys scrapping over whatever track they can get for themselves here at this stage. And down into the boot for the first time here in this mid-pack. Still lots of too wide driving and drivers on the inside having to compromise their exits. One of them being Daniel Webster there in the 35 Porsche. That's not gone so well for him. He's going to fall back in behind Elliot Osborne in the number 57 BMW. These guys, it's a 1 hour race here, David, but there's plenty of movement up and down the field as drivers hunting for spots. Speaking of that,
crossover to get to the inside there. That was a ridiculous move.
Well, I think that's actually Elliot Osborne getting the move done on Nick Wood with the crisscross out of the boot there. But Wood's holding on to the outside, tries to make it stick. He's not going to be able to make it work this time by us. He's going to have to slot back into line. Meanwhile, right behind them, Webster, one of our pro class drivers, looking to try and perhaps make his way forward. When saying that, I just got distracted there because the number 3 AM driver, Tim Harris, has brought his car down onto the pit lane already. So that's a very interesting decision there from the 93 Audi. He will have a bit of tank space to spare here at this stage. We saw it in the Pro-Am, and it's the same tank limits here. Sorry, past 2 we saw it, and we will see it again here tonight in the Pro-Am. But it's going to be a 3-stopper by the looks of things for these guys, and it looks like they are opting, well, Tim Harris is opting, to get out of the train and save some fuel early on his own. Oh, goodness me, the mid-pack is busy, but we're right on board with the 898. Jack Witters, P2 in the championship, P3 on track currently. He's looking at the back of Joshua Fitt. Meanwhile,
no one's got anything for James Scott either, by the way. That opening lap, he opened up a big gap. Fastest of everyone in every sector the whole way around. He is really, really quick out of the gate. But we know from earlier, we know from a week ago, that this is a series that can be won on strategy as well.
That it can. I think, to be honest, last week we saw James Scott, again, take strong pole position in the opening race, but then it all came undone very quickly for him with some small mistakes. But it's a tricky track, Sonoma. Watkins Glen, he's probably a little more familiar with, I would dare say, and also a track that's maybe a bit less technical than Sonoma was. And looks like the strategy from the race leader is to put the foot down and not look back here. So I'll be curious to see, can he make 6 laps out of that Porsche in the opening stint, or will he have to compromise a little bit if he keeps his foot down? Never mind, when saying though, 1.3 seconds faster than P2 on the last lap. So he's here to show everyone who's boss.
I reckon he's got that Altus 24-hour series esports set up on.
Well, that would be a thing if it wasn't for the fixed setups of the series.
Maybe he's just stolen the telemetry from Simone Maria Marchino then.
Maybe indeed. Well, we'll have to find out after this race all being going to plan to see what the magic is. But back in the field here, as we ride on board with the number 9 of Luke Turner. You can see here plenty of moving up and down the field. Have you seen, oh goodness me, Sebastian Vandel. 411 BMW decided to go from about a metre back in the rearview mirror to about, call that 10 centimetres maybe? Is that a bit optimistic perhaps? Maybe 1 centimetre was more appropriate?
Bust out the handy ruler and, 25 mil.
Yeah, there wasn't much left between the rear of that Porsche and the front of the BMW. And certainly could have gone either way. So
Vandel has been one of the big winners in these opening handful of laps as well in the 411. So, I mean, I always like to watch this in the top 10 in the opening couple of laps. Who gets one spot, who loses one spot, happens very easily with the side-by-side rolling start. But you see someone with +3 or +4 next to your name, and you know that they have found a lot more speed in race conditions than they maybe were able to put down in qualifying.
Yeah, Vandel is one of those drivers, one of the drivers who did lose out a little bit on the start here is that 18 of Lachlan Capel, pardon me, actually. Down only 2 spots, and he's now tucked up right under the diffuser of Jack Witters. You see up the hill here. Actually gets himself into the 142s. 42.96 for that 18 Porsche. Joins James Scott in the 142s as well, but Scott continuing to push on into the low 42s. Meanwhile, Witters slipstream past Joshua Fitt. Takes P2 all for himself there. Capel not able to follow through, so he gets bottled up behind the 59 Audi. And look who's joined the party. Jeff Connell. After a fantastic round for him last week, and already on the lift. I saw the flames before the brake lights came on, so he's opting to stretch the fuel here, I would think. So down into the next couple of corners, I think we'll see here into the uphill braking zones in particular from this number 1 McLaren.
Racanello is laces out here and doing the very, very sensible thing, but it must hurt to be that patient.
Yeah, he's just fallen back to 40th place outright. So the 247 Porsche, unfortunately, joins the walking wounded, whether that be damage or ego. We'll have to see in a little bit of time. Meanwhile, I jumped on board with Jeff Connell. He's not actually saving as much as I thought he might have been thinking about. So looks like at this stage, needs to get past Joshua Fitt here maybe, and put himself a little bit further up the road, perhaps, is his estimation. thinking about a move at turn 1, and here it comes. Straight up the inside. Fit, though, looking to hang around the outside. He's been given about just about nothing, so Connell gets the job done. The question is, next target up the road is Lachlan Capel in the 18 Porsche. The Porsches look quick around here, but last lap around for Capel, 144.1 as a result of the way the traffic worked there. Can hear Fit in the background lifting in behind Connell, so not opting to pressure. And the gap through the chicane. Capel, not the best run for him there. As we look back at Luke Turner, still running in 9th place in the number 9 Porsche, so 9s all round for that car there. And then 99 of Brandon Levin in 19th. And then our amateur class drivers, Nick Wood and Liam Caplice, currently fighting over 4th in class. Oh, I was just talking about Brandon Levin for a moment there as we flicked to him at the carousel. The 99 Porsche has lost the rear end here on lap number 5. So we were warned about it by series admin Sam Lehman. He suspected, well, also relayed some driver feedback about what was being reported at this stage, that the Porsches were a little bit testy and difficult to drive at times. And once again here on the Virtual Racing School replay, running a fairly normal line out of the carousel there, David, but the rear end gives away all the same.
Who's got the yellow BMW? Because they just were quite fortunate, drove it through the smoke and had to sort of see into the future every possible reality where that car might be.
Yeah, that would have been Matthew Johnson, I would suspect. Meanwhile, drivers into the pit lane. 5 of our Pro Class drivers, Joshua Fitt, Danny Davidson, Graham Smith, Adam Funslow, and John Merritt, all bringing their cars down to the pit lane. They're joined by Richard Brookfield, Mosma Roz, Damien Seeger, and Phil Audie. So, first of our drivers bringing their cars down onto the lane, and you're not wrong. An Audi, 2 BMWs, a Mercedes, a Lamborghini, another 3 Mercedes. So, sorry, 5 Mercedes and 2 BMWs. So, clearly that Merc, if you don't save a little bit of fuel, certainly can be a bit thirsty as we stay out with the front pack of cars. 784 of Ross Rizzo.
Yeah, got to be Jack Boyd behind him, right? In the all-white McLaren, just to, contrast Jeff Connell in the all-black one?
Yeah, that would probably be the appropriate description. I mean, he's missing white rims to complete the all-white look, I suppose, if we want to nitpick Jack Boyd's paint style, perhaps. But yes, another one of our drivers running an all-plain livery, which...
And he's a really clever racer as well. So he finds himself in the McLaren, and how he drives it, what strategy he ends up going for is going to intrigue me too, because we saw Jeff Connell put on that masterclass a week ago, but Jack Boyd definitely strikes me as someone else who could do similar, and so probably be a bit of a rush on pit entry this lap, I suspect.
Yeah, I would think so.
Not from Jack Witters.
Okay, so the Ferrari 898 saved a bit of fuel here, but here comes the rest. Oh, goodness me. Daniel Cheney, a little slow on entry for Ross Rizzo's liking. Rizzo has to get himself a tiny bit of overlap as they get to the limiter line.
Mega accordion on pit entry there, as they all have to slow it down to the 70-ish kilometers an hour, slower than they'll ever do out on track.
Yep, 64 kilometers per hour to be precise right here at Watkins. So despite the fact that it's an endurance classic...
They are all on pit lane, and I think Witters should have taken the pit lane. I think he's out of fuel.
Well, with the way he slammed on the brakes, that has to have been a strategy miscalculation as we jump to the Virtual Racing School replay here. And he comes up the hill. And he's already short-shifted at the bottom of the hill through turn 2. And yep, it's coughing on its way up the hill. So rather than trying to clutch roll and limp that thing around, he immediately bails out. And, oh, man.
So then your eyes have got to be on, what on earth are you doing, Lachlan Capel? Are you going to manage to work that thing around? Because everybody but Lachlan Capel, 40 other cars, have all rolled through the pit lane.
Yeah, Capel's been in that front pack, so I reckon he's had the opportunity to save.
He's in rough. He's 4 tenths off in the first sector, 8 tenths off in the second sector, 9 tenths off in the third sector. He's just rolled through the fourth sector, only 2 tenths off. So Oh, gosh, he had to save real hard in that first second, he thinks, but he's brought it around. Is that extra lap of buffer margin maybe going to help him later on in this race? We saw how close it came in the 40-minute race earlier. In this 60-minute race, that one extra lap could be a strategy silver bullet.
I think he's out of fuel. He's hit the lane. He's actually rolling it down the hill. And yep, he's having to try and put in as much throttle as he can. He's got to get all the way to the end of the lane with that second place position for him in qualifying. And he makes it there. So James Scott is going to take the race lead off him just like that again. Scott out to a lead of a country mile currently for the 89. Deciding that speed is the best strategy. And look at that. He's come through from 6th place on track up to 2nd. The man knows. No, in fact, well, it's close. And look at that. Capel was back in 4th or 5th place. He's actually been able to just get out ahead of Joshua Fitt. Now, Fitt was struggling at the end of that first stint and had been passed by Witters and Connell. And I think Watkins Capel just got him before the cycle happened. So Capel there has just made that work, I think. So with the removal of Witters from the front group, Capel now gets position number 3 on track. But he's going to have to put the foot in here, I think, to try and close back up to Connell. See if he can catch that man. Connell not looking to be saving anywhere near as much as he opted to last week. So looks like at the front of the field, it's going to be a bit of an out-and-out race when it comes to speed. And
this is crazy. They're all 10 seconds behind James Scott. James Scott leading the way. Then you get to, it's 10 seconds of fresh air. Then you get to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way through to like 20th. They're all inseparable, except for James Scott, who just, you know, looks like he brought a gun to a knife fight.
Yeah, to be precise right now, from Jeff Connell, there is as much clean air between him and James Scott as there is cars on track back to 17th place. Jordan Peter is the end of the train. So, Indeed, we can cram 2nd through 17th on track into the same space occupied by 1st to 2nd. You look at them all here in a line that just won't end. So, Connell is the head conductor of what would be the biggest train out there, and there it is, Jordan Peter, the 17th and final car, more or less in that queue. And then it's a little gap back to Matthew Johnson. Hopefully, we can get a couple of those guys there in that next pack along to get dragged up. Although at the rate James Scott's going, he'll likely just probably extend the gap for good measure. And then I'll be able to start adding cars. Oh, Graham Smith in the number 10 BMW. He's just set a purple sector 2. No, it was purple sector 2 last lap around, but well, that time around there in particular.
I think that was a brown sector.
Yeah, code brown sectors. Oh, good option.
Jack
but
Boyd.
Trouble for Jack Boyd on the exit of the chute. Another driver from the front of the field who's been in championship contention all season long. He ejects to the pits. And meanwhile, Jack Witters, in the meantime, has opted to end his race right here and now. So
Jack Boyd's obviously pushing. He's trying to catch those 3 cars ahead, trying to catch a slipstream. And on the exit, the McLaren just says, nope.
Yeah, we've seen it from the Porsche. We've seen it from the mid-engine cars as well. And Jack Boyd, too, calls it quits for the night. So that's another front-running driver who throws in the towel pretty much. I mean, there aren't safety cars in this series by the looks of things, barring maybe a monumental wreck. So drivers clearly seeing the pace around here tonight, opting not to stick around and not finding it worth their time. So, yeah, the 2 Jacks out of the race. That will shake the championship order up quite a bit. And, well, takes a little bit more pressure off Jeff Connell. He now has his nearest rival not on track to score points here.
Rossi Rizzo came up tantalisingly short in the fuel game at Sonoma. What's he thinking strategy-wise? this time around. And do we have Healy? Is Healy out on the track? Because he was actually able to do it a week ago.
We haven't seen Michael Healy tonight, so just the one Trans-Tasman Lamborghini on circuit this week. Different from usual. You can see here, Rizzo currently 6th place, has gained a spot thanks to the dramas, or the drama for Jack Boyd and Jack Witters. And he's got plenty of guys behind him who'd love to make a mark. Danny Davidson there in the 788 Mercedes, along with Daniel Cheney, Adam Funzo, and Sebastian Vandel are just the first 4 cars directly behind, let alone the rest of that train, which, by the way, still holds the amateur class leader, the 111 of Dale Carpenter in the BMW, just a little bit off this immediate pack there, but more still riding with the group. So AM class leader's got a bit of a buffer of 3 Pro class cars to be precise. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Capel looking to put the pressure on Jeff Connell now to climb the hill, this time by lap 11 of this race.
Yeah, I like that for Dale Carpenter. Just, yeah, in a good train, we know that the fuel economy might end up being important, and also just able to put a handy bit of time between himself and all the other AM class competitors. So for him, you know, he can just pretend to be a pro car for a little bit for the first half of the race. He can really ride that wave and go with that current, and it'll suit him just fine.
Yes, I think it would indeed. We look here at the number 9, Luke Turner, who actually still got the past 2 decals on after his cameo appearance last week at Sonoma. And not sure if he's still having to recover with hand controls after news last week that he had injured himself and was unable to use his normal setup. But
I think it was hand control singular. It sounded like it was a hand control for the throttle, but the remaining good leg for the brake.
That would make a fair bit of sense, and would explain a bit more. Well, would explain in part the good performance we saw from him. But
someone sent me a message about this.
Kadar, there we go. Meanwhile, oh no, Liam Caplice! Just as we're watching that battle pack for the 3 AM cars that were running just outside the AM class podium, the number 20 Ferrari has gone around hard into the Armco Virtual Racing School replay. Going to show us again just how much grass it takes on the exit of the boot here, David, to end your race in the snap of the fingers.
Couldn't see it behind the big beamer, but you only got to get a little bit of the grass there. We saw a really, really touchy moment with that in the earlier race tonight, but he's gotten a significantly bigger bite of it, and it's undone some really good work that we were praising earlier, so I don't feel like maybe that's our fault. Specifically me. It was me who said it.
Well, if you're going to claim ownership of the blame on that one there, well, I'll wash my hands clean of it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Minor miracle that Caplice has not ended up with a mechanical black flag, but he's got himself an iRacing black flag. Oh, the curse of the damaged car, speeding it on pit entry, strikes again. So repairs done, presumably car refueled, but now the pain of waiting another 40 seconds, and, well, he's going to go down a lap as a result of it all. Meanwhile, the gap is up to 15 seconds at the front of the field. James Scott knows no limits. And as a result, 15 seconds up the road, that now encompasses, well, it still encompasses actually, it's only 16 cars, 2nd through 16th, now that we've lost Jack Boyd from that front group. So actually, it's just ridiculous.
I know. 15 seconds of fresh air behind your race leader. And then in the 15 seconds behind that comes 2nd through to 16th. So, wow.
Yeah, I mean, just reading off James Scott's lap times here tonight explains exactly why. If we remove lap number 1 from the equation, because that's a rolling start at the green line, 142.0, 142.1, 142.2, 142.4, in-lap, out-lap on 6 and 7, so we'll bypass those again, and then 142.6, 142.4, And then 10, 11, and 12, all 142.3s.
Gosh, I'd feel really embarrassed about that 142.6, really dropping the ball, only setting a lap time faster than what anyone else has done all race on that lap slack.
Yeah. We know that James Scott is a quick driver for sure.
His worst flying lap is still 0.3 faster than anything anyone else has done, from what I can tell here.
Yeah. It looks like, Lachlan Capel is the next best driver on a 42.96. James Scott, yes. James Scott's slowest lap at pace is still 0.3 quicker than that. It's absolutely insane. Like, we're seeing other drivers, they're fluctuating up and down within their ranges in these train. But our race leader knows no boundaries. Oh, no, he's dropped out of the 42.3s for shame. It's a 42.4 last time around for the race leader.
So whether this is a 3 or a 4 stop race is about to become pretty immaterial with the kind of speed that James Scott has got.
Yes, it would look like he's opted for the strategy which equals just maximum speed at all times. And at this rate, he might end up getting himself close to a pit stop. If he gets a pit stop ahead, I'll be absolutely flabbergasted. That seems like quite the monumental task. Well, we just saw that the number 10 of Graham Smith bring it down onto the pit lane. He's joined in by Richard Brookfield. So second stops beginning now here at lap number 14. So about what we saw from our past two guys as well. We did see guys get to the end of lap 15 for good measure. So we will wait and see on that now. Also saw obviously a couple of guys that got to 7 laps. I mean, Lachlan Capel, we were just watching a moment ago at the end of the back straight, right up in behind Jeff Connell. So I would suspect now is the time for that number 18 Porsche to really start hammering home the fuel-saving game as we continue to look here at the fights. And Dale Carpenter's on the move, I think, because he's gotten past John Merritt in the past couple of laps. So indeed, our AM class leader is looking to put more pro class drivers between him and his next driver in line.
So they go side by side in front of him as they're coming up through the S's.
Behind Luke Turner, and that would be Sebastian Vandel up ahead.
Are we about to see a Porsche doing Porsche things?
No, Turner is still out on track in front of these guys, so it's just going to be down here into the boot, it looks like. That Merritt in a bit too deep at the end of the chute, and that's all the opportunity that Carpenter needs to head on by. Meanwhile, more drivers onto the pit lane. Joshua Fitt once again in early, along with Danny Davidson, Adam Funslow, and John Merritt. They're now joined by Mosma Roz, Phil Audie, and Damien Seeger. And meanwhile, another retirement from the race. The number 20 of Liam Caplice has also opted to call it a day after that one there for him. So here the drivers staying out on track. Good chunk of the top 10, all of them having pitted on lap 6. A couple of drivers opting to come in the lane early. So again, lap 6 for the first stop, lap 15 for the second for the most part. But, well, don't count out Lachlan Capel going to the end of 16 at least here now that he's still on the rear of Jeff Connell. And still lapping in the low 143s. So the Porsche around here tonight in the right pair of hands looks to be one of the fastest cars on track. But, I mean, even then saying that, we said, yeah, James Scott is in another world, it would seem. And, well, that extra other world of speed brings him down onto the pit lane here at the end of lap 15, David.
Yeah, all race, no one to slipstream off if you're James Scott, and I suspect that's how he's liked it, because he has been head and shoulders above in the pace department. The stint lengths are about expected. Is Jeff Connell in the same lap expected?
He is.
I guess.
Yeah, he came in at the end of lap 6, so he's matching James Scott on strategy, as is the rest of the top 10. As they all come down the lane, one after another. Again, the only driver to stay out is Lachlan Capel. And, trouble for one of our pro-class drivers. guess who got themselves a speeding and pit lane penalty and has now overshot their pit box? The 411 of Sebastian Vandel. It's been a bit of a rough transition to the Pro Division for this young man because he was absolutely killing it in the AM class here. So much so, he got himself a good old promotion. I believe it's named the Jeff Connell rule, actually, in the Oz Pro Am rulebook, due to the fact that I believe Connell had a similar thing. Meanwhile, number 99 of Brandon Levin has also got himself a speeding in pit lane penalty. Never mind that, though, because out on track. Oh, my goodness. Danny Davidson trying to go around the outside. Daniel Cheney up the hill, straight out of the pits for these guys. Davidson already got a lap underneath him here. Cheney looking to hold on, having just come out of the pits. He's going to have to swing it around the outside and, in fact, takes to the grass and loses the rear for good measure. Oh, the Porsches have been dicey tonight, and they claim another victim. This time it's Cheney, the man who falls down the order. As we see here, Capel at the front of the field. Surely now his time to come in? No. So never mind +1, it's now +2 because he's stretching it on both his stints. So there we go. Meanwhile, the other car yet to come into the pits. Daniel Hill on the number 14 Mercedes. We saw this last week actually from Hill at Sonoma, David. He was able to stretch the fuel quite a bit. You can see here, teammate to our past 2 race winner of Simon Cox. So by the sound of things, we expect to hit Simon Cox will be in the ear of him. Meanwhile, trouble on track for the number 6 BMW. And that belongs to Nathan Moore. We see here down into the tail of the boot. And oh, goodness me, we saw it in one of the Ferraris in past 2. And it's caught out of BMW as well for good measure.
Yeah, indeed it has. Working our way through that second round of pit stops. And it's going to be an interesting one because we've seen a whole heap of drivers with the full endurance of the allowed tank doing 9-lap runs. And there's 19 laps to go in this race by my calculation, aka 2 stints plus a lap. This could get very interesting in the final 2 laps. They're all setting up for maybe someone like Lachlan Capel or anyone able to extend the final or intermediate stint by 1 lap to be in a very pretty position.
Well, you know how we said strategy didn't seem to be playing that much of a role here? Capel's putting himself in a spot here where he's also got pace. It's not enough to beat James Scott in an out-and-out fight, but James Scott is going to either have to save the mother... Well, no, he can't. He came in on lap 15, so he almost certainly is doing 3 stops and a splash. Capel here with his second stop is putting himself in a position where, given I would expect he comes out around, or ideally for him, I would reckon he wants to come out behind Jeff Connell again, sit on the gearbox of the number 1 McLaren once again, and fuel save aggressively for as long as he can, so that when he comes back out on track, as he does now, in fact, it's going to be close here on pit exit. Connell goes past for turn 1. Capel's going to get out ahead, though, so drag race up the hill maybe... No, Capel will slot in front of the number 1 McLaren, so does Connell take advantage of the gift? He's 2 laps short on fuel in comparison. Or does Capel try and get out of the way here and say, you can have it back, I'm playing the long game here. Connell's looking for it, maybe. No. Opts to tuck in behind him. Big roll. There's the roll from the McLaren of Connell into the chicane. Unfortunately, not spitting flames all the way up there. So, the nuances of how the McLaren and when the McLaren fires off the flames, it's going to be a full lift out of the throttle. That's what it have to be, I would say. And so look here at the rest of that field.
Yeah, I mean, if you partial throttle, it's still combusting.
Yes, that would make a lot of... That would look...
You still get spark.
It is still sparking. So, now I'll be very curious here as we look here at this battle. 10th place, Luke Turner. But he's got John Merritt, Timothy Audie, Jordan Peter, and Christopher Henn all behind him vying for position. These guys also vying for 9th in Pro Division because Dale Carpenter's just up the road from all 4 of these guys and holding on. So, Carpenter very good speed out of his car tonight and has continued to keep a healthy buffer between him and the next group of cars that are all fighting over the amateur top 5. So currently the gap between Carpenter and Matthew Johnson is actually 10 seconds on track. So really for Carpenter, it's all in his hands, even at this stage, for anything to go horribly wrong. And these guys here, meanwhile, they're all having their race and getting on with it. You can see here, Merritt's looking pretty close to the rear end of turn this time, David, but I'd be thinking if I'm John Merritt and I pitted 1 lap earlier than Luke Turner, probably fuel saving at this stage, I would suspect. It's everyone else in the group pitted on lap 15, so for John Merritt, probably want to try and stretch it here at this stage.
I'll be the one to say I really like this sunset we're getting. We started just before sunset, but you think give it half an hour, it is going to be mighty, mighty dark. There's a move.
Move indeed. Luke Turner opts to give up the front of the train to John Merritt. So Turner clearly playing the long game in mind here. But, well, 26 minutes on the clock. Last stopped on lap 15. You can get 9 laps to a tank with some fuel saving. That's only going to get him to lap 24.
So Turner losing a couple positions over the last couple of laps. Is he also fuel saving? Does he think he can save 1 lap this stint, 1 lap the next, and cut out that stop? Because from we're reaching this point for a lot of these guys who, everyone but Lachlan Capel, where if they keep on going how they're going, it's a 4-stop race. For Lachlan Capel, it's already a 3-stop race. But there's a few drivers in that purgatory, of which these drivers here might be one that if they can save and just find an extra lap on one of these stints to the end, they might make it a 3-stop race. Is that what's happening here for Turner?
Maybe. He certainly looks a little bit off the pace.
And I'll put to you that the Porsche might be the car to do that this round as well.
Well, that might be the case indeed, because given that Jeff Connell, fuel saver extraordinaire at Sonoma in particular, looks to have opted to go for a bit of a full guns blazing approach. Now, whether that's just because he's just trying to keep James Scott remotely honest, although currently has opted to stay in behind the rear bumper of Lachlan Capel. So they also interesting to see they haven't changed positions either. As we see here, Luke Turner has dropped from 9th on track to 13th in the handful of about 3 laps. So I think Turner is opting to save at this stage. We have seen a Porsche do 10 laps to a tank, but came in on lap 15 at the end of. So his car right now gets him to the end of lap 24. And then he gets to about lap 34 perhaps. So that's going to be really touch and go. And I don't think he's quite got it there. As we see here, James Scott continues on. But, trouble for one of our Lamborghinis. 333 of Richard Brookfield. Sorry, 33, my apologies, of Richard Brookfield on the exit of the chute. Unfortunately, having to navigate the 7-point turn here, David, to ensure that the racing line stays clear here for everyone else going by.
Such just a painful loss of time where you can visually feel all the cars going past. But the only right thing to do in that situation.
Absolutely, yes. It's, yeah. I mean, very much speaks to the good conduct of the drivers here in the AusPro Sim Series that while there is the great pain of taking such a loss on track, ensuring that you're doing the right thing by everyone else as they come past is important, and great to see is, meanwhile, more trouble at the back of the field. Watching there, Aaron Racanello and Sam Lehman, but they've gone straight past what looks to be the 45 Mercedes of Phil Audi having a bit of a moment there at turn 1, David. So, yeah, more trouble afoot. And you see here one of our WBT Mercedes in, and Brookfield after that spin and hit with the fence. Brings his 33 Lamborghini down onto pit lane. Now, actually going to say we just jumped to the 22 of Wayne Losh. One of the notable faces missing tonight, actually, from the amateur division is our championship leader in that class, Aaron Oliver. And we're reliably informed that, unfortunately, Aaron is not well this evening. Or actually, no. No, I think I've just completely screwed that up. Or did I get that right?
No, I think that's the
Correct.
word. He's
Correct.
not feeling good, which is, you want to wish someone a happy birthday, but I'm not sure he's having his greatest.
Yes, that's. I got myself completely crisscrossed. I was like, hang on a second. The answer is yes. Good news for Aaron Oliver. Happy birthday to you, good sir. Not so great news. He's not well with a certain coronavirus. So, unfortunately, it looks like he's been given both ends of the shtick this week. So, hopefully, get well soon, Aaron, and you'll be feeling back to some semblance of normal and ready to go racing next week for what will be our second and final wildcard round of the season day, which we'll have to talk about at the end of the broadcast. Oh, I was going to see how this one turned out before I started talking about it. John Merritt on the bumper of Dale Carpenter for what is now 8th place on track, and Carpenter now either opting for a strategic play here because he's been caught up by Merritt all of a sudden in the past couple of laps. And, well, that 64 Mercedes thought about going around the outside, David, but there wasn't much room left to go there. So very thankfully, well, did find the grass, but was able to get back out of that move before anything came to pass.
I mean, we've seen, you got the racetrack, you got a little bit of grass, and then Armco both sides, particularly up through the S's. So, yeah, you don't see people lose it and save it that often. Minor miracle when it does happen.
Certainly not in a class like GT3 where you're already doing about 240, 45 kilometers an hour at the top of that hill. And given steering into that would require a bit of a flick, that would see the cars come undone. Well, our next takers are into the pit lane for their third stops of the race. Danny Davison and Timothy Audi, two of our Pro Class cars down onto the lane. So, lap 22 for them is their second stop. We see here, back up in P2. Capel still leads Jeff Connell, and these two guys have now joined the 142 club. So, pace is coming to everyone here at this end of the race, but they're still half a second off James Scott up the front of the field.
Track presumably starting to cool off just a little bit. It's very beautiful conditions right now, both for racing, but also for maybe having a Genesee beer. That's what the locals drink.
I'll have to take your word for it, as we just saw there, Elliot Osborne getting the move done on Matthew Johnson. So that's a change for second place in the amateur division here. Johnson's been holding on to that one for the most part, but the group here, which also includes Nick Wood and Mos Moros, fighting over AM division spots. It's getting broken up a little bit by pro traffic here. Daniel Cheney down there in the 444 Porsche, mixing it up for outright positions here on track, as Johnson's got an absolutely fantastic run off of the toe of the boot. Osborne has not given a car's width, but eventually has to open up the inside, and Johnson says, I'll have my spot back, thank you very much. But the way Osborne's going, he's not willing to give that one up straight away, so back up the inside he goes at the top of the boot, trying to squeeze Johnson off the circuit almost, it would seem. At the very least, one car width only for that yellow BMW. Job done for now as Merritt brings it onto the pit lane, and Osborne, he's just checked Johnson up very hard on the corner exit as he comes down onto the pit lane. So trying to get track position to not fluster him, and as a result, Jai Potts goes past Johnson, and Daniel Cheney thinks about the move at turn 1, but nothing of it that time by. So again, the pit lane here at Watkins Glen, the entry on the racing line makes it such a balance. And you can see there, Osborne opting to get himself that track position, and as a result, compromising one of his competitors out in the circuit.
And we're reaching that really do or die point in the race where we've flagged up with the well, that's die. That's skipping part of the chicane, but the fuel tank will do them about 15 minutes, maybe 16-ish, depending on where the laps fall. But there is 17 3/4 of an hour left in this one as your leader comes to pit lane. Lachlan Capel will keep going. What will Jeff Connell do?
Well, I would suspect, and Connell, no, that's tight on corner entry. He is making sure that car comes down onto the lane. So despite the fact that Connell has been in behind Capel for most of that, well, in fact, that entire stint there from the number one.
I like that it doesn't say pit limiter engaged. It says pit limiter armed. Like it's a weapon.
Yep. We're arming the system. Joshua Fitt comes down onto the lane, one of our early takers as well. But Ross Rizzo last came into the lane on lap 15, and he's one of the first to stretch the fuel tank. He's not going to get out in front of James Scott again. That's just a testament to Scott's pace, and a purple sector on the in-lap as well in the middle of the circuit for that number 89 car. Meanwhile, look at them come in. Jeff Connell, Joshua Fitt, Adam Funslow, Dale Carpenter, Jordan Peter, Christopher Hand, Jai Potts, Matthew Johnson, Nick Wood, Daniel Cheney, and Nathan Moore all into the lane this time by. Now, we're wondering here if they've got enough to do it. With James Scott's pace, that's what I think is the concerning problem here. Is James Scott, as the race leader, when he gets that lead back... No, Scott is clutch rolling. Scott is aggressively using the clutch here, David. So I think...
It's 11 laps to go by my numbers. I think it's too late for Scott to make it home from here. Sure, he might have the ability to control how many laps the race goes as the leader, but I think it will be tight.
We'll have to see. But Scott
basically, I think Scott's still got another stop.
Yeah, fair enough.
It'll recalculate for me once Lachlan Capel makes his final stop. That might be the deciding factor. Right now, it's calculating the laps based on, the pace and location of the overall leader, which is Lachlan Capel for the moment, but in 3 laps' time, we'll revert back to James Scott, and I might get another calculation.
Indeed. Well, Capel opts to stay out here. He could probably bring a car down any time, from that previous time by, and be relatively confident that he could fill the tank up and then just go completely full blaze of glory to the line. James Scott has really slowed the pace up. Christopher Hand, meanwhile, has picked up a black flag from iRacing. He's already on the exit of the boot, so that has to have been an unsafe pit exit from the number 60. Ferrari, unfortunately, it's kind of easy to do here at Watkins Glen. If you just push that exit too wide, there's barely a car's width in it and a very specific line you have to take. So his day goes from pretty good to not so great, because he's in 16th and he's going to see that tumble well down the order for him, unfortunately. But he can probably squeeze a bit of fuel in it and make sure he's home safe. Last in on lap 22, he's in the lane now and follows Daniel Hill, Calix Poon, Sam Lehman, and Luke Turner. So we're going to have a look at it here, David. And surely, watch here as he just comes out of the lane. Watch the drift, son. Oh, no. Interesting. Fascinating. That was certainly not outside of the pit exit parameters, but
that was outside of the pit box parameters just there.
Oh, dear. Well, 22x incident limit in this race tonight as well. So maybe, just maybe, pushing the track limits out on circuit too much. And that's what's got him in trouble. As our race leader comes around the final corner, he's in the lane. So Lachlan Capel brings it down onto the lane. James Scott will retake that race lead. And I'm curious to see, this is his first flying lap since he's come out of the pits. He has been heavily on the clutch most of this race. And he's up behind lap traffic, and he's not even thinking about 143.2. So there you go. Race leader has abandoned his pace by a full second a lap here at this stage. Is that going to be enough to completely change the outcome of the race? I guess David will have to wait and see. Unfortunately,
it did recalculate for me and say 1 lap less, which means it is possible for James Scott to stretch that tank out to 10 laps on this stint, and that'd take him clean to the end. Everyone you're just seeing leaving pit lane right now, of course, Lachlan Capel is good, but Jeff Connell touch and go. Graham Smith, I think, still needing another stop. Danny Davison in 5th, still needing another stop as well. It's come down to that fuel numbers game once again.
Yeah, the fuel limits here at Oz Pro-Am certainly making it a tight gamble whichever way you go. Davison has pulled a 3.5 second gap on Ross Rizzo, but he's 3 laps short of comfortably making it, so that will almost certainly change positions. So Rizzo takes short-term pain, but surely long-term gain in his future. Should get back 2 spots here towards the end. He might even get 3 because Connell is on the margins, and we'll have to see how much lifting and coasting he does. And it looks like 3.7 seconds. He's given up quite a bit of pace to Capel. Just listen here. Is he? Yep. The lifted coast is back out from the number 1. So there you have it. Jump out the back shot and enjoy some of that McLaren fireball exhaust as we make our way around the circuit here. Look at that. Quite a bit of flame usage I expect to see out of the exhaust of that car to the end of this race.
Yeah, that's the overrun when he's off throttle, when he lifts it in. Part of the anti-lag system that is a little unique to this turbo McLaren. Swooping around the outside, real trust in the other driver and the traffic in turn 1 for Connell. Look, I'm going to go down about your top 10 and give the David Haynes strategy seal of approval to some. James Scott, I think the pace that he's doing is definitely trying to make this a 10-lap stint. I give that a stamp of approval. He's got 21 seconds in his back pocket. He could give away 3 seconds a lap on the fuel saving if he needed to, and he's only given away about 1 second a lap, and obviously really, really conserving. So, looks good for your race leader. Lachlan Capel, I'd already given him the stamp stints and stints ago. He can push hard to the end here, and I would say that strategy could well reward him with 2nd place. Jeff Connell, same boat as James Scott. So I think that's David Haynes' stamp of approval right there. Graham Smith is going to need another one for show. Danny Davison, another stop for show. And then Ross Rizzo, that could see him shoot up into 4th place.
Yeah, I think, Rizzo is a shoe-in for 4th place here tonight. Yes, it's just a question of how much, humongous roll from the race leader here. So, does a 1:43.7 despite all of the lift and coast. First flying lap for Capel. He's about to come around the final corner. This is going to be interesting here to see is how much speed can the number 18 wrangle out of his car here. A 1:42.5, so look at that. He lights up the timing tower compared to everyone else around him. And unfortunately, though, 20-second gap. And
it's still a second. It's still over a second with 6 laps to go. So if you assume he keeps that up, he will be within about 14 or so seconds of James Scott. And that makes it look like a slightly less dominant leading performance than it looked a little while ago. And if there's any troubles for Scott, Capel will be there.
Yeah, but with the way Scott is fuel saving, he is, going all in on the saving strategy. He's been doing it from the moment he came out of the box. So for a man of his experience, I doubt he'll be making a mistake there on the fuel strategy. As we have a look here at the battle for 14th outright, but it involves 2 of our AM class drivers, Matthew Johnson, Elliot Osborne, still going at it. 2nd and 3rd in class here. Osborne on the attack once again. Johnson immediately defensive at the top of the hill. So these guys, they're almost lapping as fast as the race leader. And actually looking at this though, Osborne's in a bit of a tough spot, David. He last pitted on lap 23, so surely he's all in right now on making a 4th stop because there is no sign of fuel saving or conservation from that 57 car, whereas Johnson ahead of him stopped on lap 24. So he might be gambling on others around him taking a 4th stop, whereas the guys at the front, they're playing the long game with only a 3-stop race here tonight. Yeah,
so we talked about sort of the overall positions and who is confidently fueled to get to the end and who's going to need another stop. But amongst the AM competitors, I think Dale Carpenter as your AM leader is actually in a pretty good spot. Graham Smith is going to peel in for his final one, and there goes Ross Rizzo down the pit straight. So your AM leader, Dale Carpenter, in a pretty nifty little spot. And then looking further down, same two for Matthew Johnson. Elliot Osborne, we talked about probably needing another stop. And in fact, he's in.
So much so, he pulls the plug early, getting the car onto pit lane now. So Carpenter and Johnson both pitted on lap 24. They're going to have to be saving if they want to make this work. I'm just watching above Dale Carpenter at the moment, and he's not really saving. So I reckon here, again, Carpenter, one of the drivers who's going all in here to the end of the race. And given the two Pro Class cars ahead of him also stopped on laps 23 and 24 respectively, he's gambling on making that work. Luke Turner, lap 25, 2 spots behind him outright, will probably get him here as we come down into the boot. Yeah, no sign of a save from the 111 BMW, so looks like he has made his decision.
How do I unstamp that?
Well, the thing is, right, as I said, Johnson is in the same situation as him in terms of last lap pitted, and same for Nick Wood. And in fact, all three drivers, I do not hear any convincing sounds of a lift and coast like we're seeing from James Scott, because he pitted on the same lap in that Porsche up front, and he's lifting and coasting everywhere to make it home. So, yeah, I think the amateur podium has committed itself to a 4-stop race. And in fact,
so is Sam Lehman about 20 seconds off third in AM class, gone a lap longer? He's close enough to maybe scrape third in this class on the strategy?
I reckon there's half a chance he even gets second here, because splash and dash, pit lane transit time for someone like Danny Davidson, for example, who's just come into the lane, the cone-to-cone transit is about 37 seconds. So, yeah, touch and go from Sam Lehman's position. I reckon he's half a shot at P, or he's pretty. I reckon he can challenge for P2 in class, which will put him up, knocking on the door of a top 10 outright here, going long. The other question is, what can be done? Meanwhile, see Luke Turner and Adam Funzlo fighting behind them. Matthew Johnson, Daniel Cheney were side by side. Cheney's out in the gravel and around. Around goes the 444 once again at the exit of the chicane. Oh, heartache for that car. Gets it going once again, but
Side by side through the inner loop worked until it didn't for those guys.
Well, I just saw, it was back and forth on my timing screens. And, well, the 444 is the car that comes off worst. We stay on board here with the amateur class leader up to 7th outright, but I suspect, along with the cars directly ahead of him, he almost certainly will be stopping again, because I've not heard anything sounding remotely like fuel saving. And the way he suddenly caught Joshua fit, all of a sudden, there it is. Carpenter indeed has to throw in the towel, bring it down onto the lane. So I expect Matthew Johnson brings it in soon enough, surely as well, because he came in on 24 as well. Oh, Nick Wood, that looks a little bit slow and crumpled. Yeah. And yeah, that car has been in the wars this lap. So to the virtual racing score replay we go, David. Nick Wood, unfortunately, has come undone all by himself by the looks of things.
And it's just going to be that grass, isn't it? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The Armco is super close right there as well, because one of the track access tunnels runs underneath for the trucks and fans, etc. And so the Armco just squeezes in a little bit, makes it so easy to catch it as it's just off the exit of the corner too.
All right, Carpenter, back out on track. 15th out right now, 3rd in class, but still in the hot seat to win it for that division, I would think. He's come out 10 seconds clear of Sam Lehman, so yeah, I have to revise my estimation of maybe. And yeah, I'd say it looks like at this stage Lehman.
I had it as a 29-second transit time through the lane, by the way.
Interesting. Yeah, my system's counting 36 seconds from cone to cone for Dale Carpenter on that last one there. 5.5 seconds stopped in his box as well on that particular run through. As we watch here, Matthew Johnson, apparently now your amateur class leader, but starting to get absolutely swamped by some of these pro class guys who have pitted. I think, well, Johnson can't possibly be thinking of trying to make it work. John Merritt, last pit on lap 23. Well, make that lap 32 for him now. That Mercedes didn't have the mileage in it there tonight, so Funslow and Jordan Peter go through, but they're going to be touch and go on lap 24 as well. Matthew Johnson, though, in the AM class lead, he's staying out, as is Nick Wood. So both of those guys gambling on trying to really stretch the fuel here in the final, what should be 2 laps of the race, maybe, although...
Yeah, 2.
Yeah,
and you're going to feel like a hero if you're Lachlan Capel, because he's been pulling more than a second a lap out of James Scott every lap. It's not going to be enough. But he will have left the pit lane after his final stop, 22 seconds behind the leader or so. And this might come down to less than 10 seconds first to second.
Yeah, white flag in the air here at the line for James Scott. So it's going to be a 34-lap race here. And look at that. James Scott is having to do what Jeff Connell did last week. Sacrifice 3 seconds in a single lap. Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough for Capel, but up the hill comes the race leader. And how early are you on the clutch, James? I'm going to write on board here. Passes the DRS sign.
How strong is your moral compass? Because
he didn't save.
I wouldn't shortcut the inner loop on the final lap of the race to save fuel, knowing that I'd give up the slowdown penalty regardless.
Galt's not saving. He's back to full pace. Just like that, bang. So there it is. Saving all the way into that stint here. He's now got complete confidence in the fuel tank to make it home. Meanwhile, look at this. 5 cars. 2x2 plus 1. And this is the fight here up towards the front of the amateur.
Looks like Jai Potts. Oh, squeezes another driver at the apex. I think Potts is out of fuel or damaged as well.
Oh dear, trouble around the 20s as a group of cars make their way around to start their final lap. Potts, yeah, he's out. He comes down the lane. Follows Sebastian Varndell and Wayne Losh in. Can they get to the start-finish line before James Scott comes through, actually? Because here comes the race leader around the final corner of the track. He's been uncontested from the start of this race. Redemption after a rough 2 rounds since he joined at Imola and Sonoma, but he gets it done tonight. And despite having to save the fuel aggressively, he just goes and sets the fastest lap of the race on the very last lap of the race.
I reckon he saved so hard on that penultimate lap so that he could push hard on the final lap. He gave up 3-4 seconds on the penultimate lap just to give himself that buffer to go ham to the checkered flag.
Yep.
Turner on that fuel save as well, trying to make sure this comes home. Funslow might be able to go more rich. Or is he? Or Funslow's also on a fuel save. Both of these guys coasting it to the line, begging for that checkered flag.
Turner, lap 25 with his last stop, so a little bit of a stretch from him, but Funslow behind. Lap 24, never mind that though, because out of the final corner they come. Oh, Funslow all over the headlights. I think crediting that one there, but we have to come back to the amateur class lead. Matthew Johnson's going to have to make that BMW as wide as a house, but he can't do it. And there it is. Gonna have to limp it home here. Dale Carpenter gets back the class lead just in time to get across the line there and take the win. Nick Wood behind, also limping it home there. So the podium for amateur decided by having the biggest stones and letting it run out across the final lap there. As the last couple of cars make their way to the start-finish line here.
Maybe he's got the Red Bull fuel pump and it cavitated.
Yes, indeed. Oh, Phil Audie black flag next to his name as well. So that's going to be a hefty time penalty added to his name as he comes across the line here. And now the 45 Mercedes is about a rough night tonight, and I think it's extra damage for good measure. As we see here, the race leader makes one more lap around the circuit for good measure, just showing that he had a little bit more left in it, but he is now actually coasting that thing into the pit lane. So has stretched that car about as far as it will go here tonight, David. Here are your top 10 results. James Scott started from the pole, and he did not look back a single moment in that race. Despite some monumental fuel saving, comes home 14 seconds clear of Lachlan Capel in position number 2. Saving early on gave Capel a massive advantage up there on everyone around him. Jeff Connell brings it home in 3rd place, but a big save for him to the end of that race means he was unable to challenge for P2. Ross Rizzo brings it home in 4th place, and up 3 spots for him as well tonight, but a bit of a quiet one there towards the end for him. Joshua Fitt dying towards the front, but ends up in 5th place. Not quite the fuel mileage that he would probably have liked in that Audi tonight, I would wager. Luke Turner returns to Pro-Am competition to bring home a 6th place finish. Adam Funslow just behind, not able to get there off the final corner. 7th for him there in the number 32 BMW. Jordan Peter comes home in 8th. Danny Davidson in 9th. And Graham Smith rounding out your top 10.
Across the page, we have Nathan Moore and John Merritt. Dale Carpenter as your AM class winner, taking that position just before the final corner as Matthew Johnson coughed, spluttered, and ran out of fuel in his BMW. And then Nick Wood just not far behind them at all for 3rd in that class. Calix Poon, after being back of the field, facing the wrong way in turn number 1, lap number 1, gets 16th overall, and one of our highest running Lamborghinis as well after Ross Rizzo. Got Elliot Osborne, Sam Lehman, Daniel Hill, all as AM class competitors, scoring some good points, and the top 20s rounded out by Timothy Alty.
And over the page once more, final cars to finish on that lead lap include Mos Moroz in 21st, Aaron Raccanello 22nd, Derek Audie 23rd, and Sebastian Vandel in 24th. And then we get to our list of drivers one lap down, starting with Wayne Losh in 25th, followed by Angus Chappell for 26th, Jai Potts in 27th, Christopher Henn in 28th, Nick Buxton in 29th, Brandon Levin rounding out the top 30, and then it's Richard Brookfield 31st, Damien Seeger 32nd, Daniel Webster in 33rd, and Phil Audie 34th. And the last car to finish one lap down here, David. 35th goes to Hayden Jackson, 36th to Daniel Cheney, 2 and 3 laps down respectively for them. And then our retirements from the race. Liam Caplice, 24 laps short after his incident at the top of the boot. Glenn Boyd, very quietly racing around here tonight, but unfortunately 25 laps short of the finish. Jack Boyd, after that mistake going down the chute, it's a 39th for Jack Boyd, 26 laps down off the leader. And Jack Witters, 40th place, 27 laps off. And then it's Timothy Harris, the last driver, who took 2 at the grid, and unfortunately for him, 41st and 31 laps off of the race there. Well, it's time to have a quick chat to 2 of our podium getters, P1 and P2 to be precise. We'll start with our race winner, James Scott, in the number 89 Porsche. Well, James started from the front of the field, and you did not look back tonight in any way, shape or form, it would seem.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I did know that it was going to be kind of close on the fuel, but I thought that if I could just get enough of a gap in the first, 4 stints, maybe 3, that I could sort of recover the fuel needed in the last stint if I just had enough of a gap. So that sort of played out really well.
Sure did, yeah. I mean, Lachlan Capel behind you was the only driver who stretched the fuel to be a little bit more comfortable in the car, it would seem, at the end of the final stint. But yeah, your pace consistency in the opening half of the race blew everyone out of the water tonight. I guess, do you get to credit that down to just being someone who's been active on the sim for many years and being versatile across different cars? Or were you putting in did you put any practice into tonight, or in for tonight in particular, was it?
Not really. I didn't actually know I was going to race until, I don't know, this afternoon when the weather was pretty horrendous outside. So I thought, come have a race. Although it did help. I think it might have been the second last week of the official series. Last season was here with the VRS Sprint Series. So, although in saying that, it was a different challenge tonight. Obviously with the new updates with the cars, made it quite a lot faster. But yeah, overall car was good with this fixed setup, and yeah, good to come away with the win.
You've been dominant on single lap pace, and you're able to convert it here tonight. Before we let you go, James, chance to thank team partners, sponsors, and who got it done for you tonight.
Yeah, obviously all the guys at AusPASS Esports. They've been really good, and obviously all our great sponsors as well, with Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Virtual Racing School, Cube Controls, Own 3D, and Race Tech Seats. And obviously thanks to Sam and all the guys behind the scenes with the series, and obviously you, Jay, and David for the broadcast.
Appreciate it, James. Well done tonight once again, and look forward to seeing you here for the rest of the season. And plenty of results, I'm sure, on the cards for you as well coming up.
No worries. Thanks, boys.
Well, there's our race winner, one and done pretty comfortably, as you heard it there from him tonight. But let's have a chat to our second place finisher now, David. I'll leave it to you for this one here. To Lachlan Capel, able to make the fuel strategy work better than just about everyone else. But P2 there, Lachlan. From me, just quickly before I hand off to David, well done to you there tonight. And I guess, made that strategy work early on by saving fuel at the start.
Yeah, cheers, Dan Yeaman. I don't know, that was an interesting race. Wasn't really too confident going in because the Porsche felt like it would just die on every corner, so specifically turn 6 and turn 10. You really had to manage the throttle or else the car would just spin. So it was just the consistency, and I was able to do that. And due to that fuel strategy, I knew I could go 2 laps, at least a lap longer than everyone else. And I think I managed to go a lap longer in both first 2 stints before pushing for the third. But unfortunately, the timer just ticked over, so Scott was able to go 1 lap less, which means that I probably just missed out. But otherwise, pretty good race overall.
Yeah, and right out of the gate, trying to really save that fuel. That must have made the first half of the race a little painful, knowing that you'd get some spots back later on.
Yeah, I mean, the start was a bit iffy because Fit tried to send it 3 wide on me, and I just had to kind of let it happen, or else I was going to get T-boned. And then I knew from that point of view it was just going to be a train, and there was no way it was going to only overtake what was happening, because we were getting held up slightly by Fit and we were losing all the time to Scott. So once Jack Witters got around him, I tried to follow him, and then unfortunately Jack missed the pit entry and ran out of fuel on that first coming lap. But I had that in my head that I knew I could save just a little bit of fuel, and if I did that both times, I'd be massively ahead on fuel strategy. And the second stint, I tried to sit behind Connell to try and save a little bit of his fuel, but I kept having this doubt in the back of my mind coming into that third stint whether or not he'd be actually able to jump me in the pits. But I think he also had to save right at the end, so I had the best fuel strategy tonight, I think, and I'm pretty happy with myself for being able to do that, because I'm not really a fuel saver.
Final stint, you'd have seen yourself just clawing a second a lap, a second and a half and more out of James Scott. Thinking there, just, wishing for that extra lap, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure, I definitely was. I knew he would have had to either short fuel twice or long fuel and attempt to make it, which is obviously the better option because it's a little bit more risky, but you get that position of that better track position. And when I looked at my pit time on Caps, it said that he did basically the same amount of stop as if you put full fuel in, so it was about 40 seconds or so, and I knew that he was going to try and save fuel to the end, so it was all about that gap closing. I think it was 23 seconds to begin with, then it quickly became 20, and then 19, then 15, but at the end he knew that he had enough fuel, and then I think he went for a quickie at the end because he did a 42.1 as the final lap of the race, which I couldn't match because the car just started losing itself. So I was in more conservation mode of trying to make sure I didn't bin it, because I have this weird thing where every time I've done a Watkins Glen race, I've binned it somewhat. 6 hours of the Glen LMP2 killed on the first lap or something, and then multiple GT3 races here I've just spun out with the old configuration, but I'm happy that I was able to break the curse tonight and walk away with not binning the car.
And just lastly, gold rims or red rims?
Gold.
Wrong.
Well, there we go. Well, David Haynes.
It was good to speak with him before we lost him.
Right then, well, if you're watching the broadcast, Lachlan, apologies. Apparently David has executed some executive authority on that one there. And we are joined by our third place getter tonight, Jeff Connell, the number 1 McLaren. Not quite got the fuel-saving legs tonight. Was that a strategy call in the end, or was that just a sort of fact of the way the race played out for you tonight?
I just didn't have the pace. Third was the best I was going to do tonight. Whether I saved the fuel on the first, second, or third stint, it wouldn't have mattered. I still would have been third. So, don't think it would have made much difference at all, really, to save that 1 or 2 laps at a different stage in the race. Third was the best tonight. The best strategy was speed tonight in that one.
Yeah, I saw James Scott out in front on it at the early phase of the race, a class of his own. Lockie Capel was able to close him down towards the end, but yeah, you did a good job there up the front of the field, but yeah, just not quite the raw pace tonight. So I guess, yeah, you made it work, I guess, best you could. So I guess looking forward from this one here, again, you're in a great position now championship-wise, thanks to some dramas for the other guys around you here. Should put you further ahead in the championship for good measure. I guess when you're able to keep turning out consistent results like that, I guess it still is a good result overall, championship speaking, in the end of it all.
Yeah, it is. Lockie did a better job saving fuel than I did. But even if I saved fuel as good as him, he still would have ran second, I would have still ran third. So that was just the speed tonight. But it's good for the championship. Run third at a enduro, which pays a bit higher points. Like there's a bigger gap between each position. So pretty solid night with points. So just need to find more pace because it's good to be consistent, but can't get beat by that much every week.
Well, I think this is maybe a sign, could be a sign of things to come with the way the pace that James Scott can bring to the field, but we will have to wait and see, I think. We've got the Wildcard up next week, which will see you guys in either the Audi 90 GTO or the Ford Mustang FR 500S. Any thoughts on which of the car classes you're going to take for that one next week?
Barely drive either of them. I don't even think I've driven the Mustang, so I drove the Audi ages ago, so I'll probably drive that, but not very experienced in them, so we'll see what happens. They're so fun to drive, but they're pretty hard to drive as well, so it'd be good fun. Not going to stress about the result next week, just have fun in something different.
That is very true indeed. That Audi is a handful, but a good one. Well, I'll ask it again, Jeff, even though it's unlikely to have changed. And is there anyone you want to thank for tonight and the result you're able to get out there in the end of it all?
Yeah, no sponsors or partners on board the car. So, just thanks to Sam and everyone that runs this show. It's pretty cool series to have so many cars, so competitive, and it's so much fun each week. So, yeah, thanks to the guys that run it. Thanks to the sponsors, SimRigs, and all the other sponsors, and also SimSpeed for an awesome broadcast every week.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Well, thank you very much for that one once again. So that rounds out the podium interviews tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have any of our AM class drivers here tonight to have a chat with us, so a bit unfortunate there, David, to not get their perspective, but it's time to look forward to next week. And as we just mentioned there in the interview with Jeff, the next of our AusPASS Wildcard rounds return. We head to Road Atlanta, another classic American endurance circuit, but we're not bringing out the GT3 cars. The Ford Mustang FR 500S from the the SimLab Production Car Challenge, and the Audi 90 GTO of Camel GT will be out on circuit for us tonight. Mustang is the locked-in car choice for Pass 2, but the guys in Pro-Am get a choice between either or. So it will be a fascinating race to have a watch with two very different cars out on track next week.
Yeah, exactly. Got big V8 old school versus the, well, it was high tech in its time, 5-cylinder turbo 4-wheel drive Audi.
Yeah, the Audi is an absolute riot. I've had given it some lap times in other series recently, but that could be a handful around Road America to be sure. And the Mustang, well, kind of a production car, but still big fat V8 engine indeed under that bonnet there, so bit of a bruiser. Well, that'll do us for tonight, David. Big thanks for being here in the commentary box with me once again, and to Jay Kennedy on production. And before we go, a big thanks to all of the sponsors that make the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series possible. The Simrigs.com, the title partner, once again, with Phoenix Smokers, Computer Technology Corporation, Palmer's Skincare, Echuca Toyota, and Index Designs, all contributing as well. Big thanks to every single one of those brands that helps make the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series possible here for season number 6. Thank you all for very much for watching us here at SimSpeed TV tonight. My name is Daniel Yeaman. Hope you've enjoyed it all. Until next time, SimSpeed is live on air, whether that be if you join us for Oz Pro-Am next week or something else in the meantime. Thank you all very much for watching this evening, and take care for now.